We were about to consider appropriation PAH 9, Management of Land Information, for $4,333,926. Mr. Bush, I think you had
Yes,
started asking a question when we broke for lunch.
Mr. Chairman, through you. A few years back, I remember going and seeing Geography Week. You remember that, Mr. Vasquez? When was the last time you held one of those?
Rupert Vasquez, Director of Lands and Survey. Through you, Mr. Chair. I think it was the year before, it was GIS Day. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, sir.
But we did not have it last year. The year before, we had it in Cayman Brac and here.
You had it
in
here
the
as well.
schools. Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, why was it not held last year? And will you be doing one this year?
It wasn't held last year because of timing and resources to some degree. And this year, it will be held. We tried to hold it last year, but we just didn't have the time. But this year, it will be held.
Because I think when you hold that, sometimes it can actually let some of the younger people know there's actually jobs in this field that Caymanians can hopefully get to.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I absolutely agree. And it's something that will definitely be held.
Now that you mentioned the GIS, I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, I bumped into a young lady at the airport, and she told me that you all were sending her to a GIS conference, and I thought that was good. Do any of your other staff get sent to these type of conferences, and will the GIS conference overseas be attended this year by a local person?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. Normally, the GIS manager would attend, and I think last year a local person did, a young lady did attend.
Yes.
This year, I'll be attending with another young lady that is married to a Caymanian.
Mr. Chairman, through you, the other younger staff members could benefit from him. You already know everything. I mean, the other younger people that could go on this thing.
I believe all other young Caymanian have gone
Okay.
that we have. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. This year is good.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Miller?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to the director, to the minister.
Mr. Miller?
Yeah, people can go to Lands and Survey Office and buy a map that is a photographic overlay on boundary, non-fixed boundary stuff. And it presents a very inaccurate image. And it's causing problems in my constituency, right? Because people are insisting that that photograph with the boundary thing on it is correct. You know what I'm talking about?
Mr.
Yeah, it's way off. But they're not telling people that it's not accurate, and people are now going to the adjoining landowner and saying that I own half your house because the boundary with the photographic overlay seriously has the boundary in the middle of the man's house. I don't know what the problem is.
And I'm not trying to be difficult, but perchance you wouldn't have something like a sample with you.
No, I don't.
Just
I
asking.
don't have.
Well, can you just give me a minute, please, through you, Mr. Chair? You know what he's talking about. You want to explain this?
He just did it today. He just did it.
What are we going to do about that? Or we can't do anything about that? just explain it to him then. All right? Mr. Chairman, I will answer further questions, but I think it's best to ask Mr. Vasquez to explain to the committee exactly what's the reason for this occurrence that the member from Northside is speaking about.
Mr. Vasquez?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the member, I know what you're talking about. We've had complaints with this, and we try to address it straight on. This is something that really the chief surveyor could be talking to. But what it is, I believe you're talking about, is an overlay of the aerial photography with the registry map. And the registry map is inherently incorrect, as we know it, unless you have a fixed boundary or a ground survey done. And so is the aerial photography. So when it's overlaid, there are inherent errors there that are more prominent in some areas. So we know we live with that, and I believe we put a caveat on the registry map and on the subscription that we have, as far as I know. Whenever it's brought to our attention, we try to resolve it and deal with it. But it's something that is inherently there.
I think if each person that bought one of these overlays was told, or it was printed on it, that it is not, that the boundaries are not accurate, it would solve the problem. Because I know of one instance where lawyers got involved trying to defend their client that this aerial photograph was correct, and that somebody's driveway was on their land, right? And then the person got very irritated about it because the survey markers were quite clear. But it's and as recently as last weekend, it happened.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe there's a caveat on the registry map and on the aerial photography, but what I will endeavor to do is to make sure that it is there, and we try to personally address these issues once they come to us. But I will make sure that it is so.
Mr. Miller, the microphone isn't on.
I don't need to record. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the accuracy is not small. It's not a 5 or 10 feet. The one that came to my attention last week was close to 100 feet. And
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll address it. If you don't mind, I could even reach out to you after this with the specific issue there.
Thank you, Mr. Vasquez. If there are no further questions, we'll proceed. Oh, Mr. McLean, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't have, even with 3 pairs of eyes, it's difficult for me to see. Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions, but let me thank I don't know whose idea this was to bring this here with these, what's this? Staff training and professional development. Very good. I'm glad to see that we're doing something with it. Thank you all very much, you see. But I don't know if that was from fear of us going to ask the same questions, but it's all right. It worked. I just need time to take a read of it. Maybe others should do this too. Should I encourage you, Mr. What your name is again? Alan, Mr. Jones, CEO, to encourage that the rest of your departments do the same thing. I don't want to see no blank paper now. Mr. Chairman, I need to know about this conveyancing. What's the status with the computerization? Yeah, e-conveyancing, the status with it. It was 2 years ago? 2, 3? My memory that short? 2, 3 years ago that we engaged someone to do this, that the commitment was that this should have been done in 2 years or something like that.
Mr. Chairman, the e-conveyancing has several aspects to it, and I will go through the lists fairly swiftly. What has been already done, what's already accomplished by Mr. Vasquez and his team. First of all, they have completed the review and enhancement of the workflow processes, which has led to a reduction of turnaround time for registration of transactions, and I am told that it is now down from 25 days to 10 days, and sometimes less. There's also an introduction of an express service for documents not requiring stamp duty to be completed in 2 days. I guess that would be similar to how the passport office might be used. The benefits of this are improved business processes and decision-making through faster registration of the documents. And just to give an example there, express registrations of official searches facilitates faster completion of payouts and settlements for property transactions. They've also automated the collection of stamp duty, excluding the assessment, with management reports being generated. And Mr. Chairman, what is being done now is also the introduction of online, the online forms system for use by customers. 17 forms have been completed and now available in production, and there are 15 forms which they are in the process of completing, which have not been completed yet, but will soon be done. And also some new forms to be developed to facilitate the creation of new parcels. And I am told that all of this is expected to be completed by first quarter of fiscal year 16-17. That is by end of September. Just to explain to the member and to others, this service will have achieved 4 main benefits. 1, the service will support the government's digital by default policy and reduce operating costs by saving an estimated 1,500 man-hours of staff time from data entry per year. It also captures all relevant information required by the various transactions, and it reduces the number of returned lodgements caused by typographical errors and errors of omission when the forms are being completed by customers, and it reduces the length of time the customer has to wait while the transactions are being processed.
Thank you, Mr.
I thought that was all. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Mr. McLean?
No, I'm. You asked the question, sir, and I'm answering it.
Yeah, but I would rather actually another one. But I mean,
But you don't want me to complete the answer? I'm happy to
Yeah.
stop there and you go right ahead, sir.
Mr. Chairman, he can go ahead and give me information overload because I don't comprehend.
Thank you. Mr.
Go right
Turner.
ahead and ask the question, sir. I'm listening.
You give it to me. since I am one of those in here that don't comprehend, just give it to me.
Mr.
The
Tibbetts,
information
don't.
overload.
were you gonna elaborate on the answer?
Mr.
or
Chairman,
you
I
were
never
finished?
for a minute tried to suggest that the member doesn't understand, but there were different aspects of the whole thing.
Okay, let's start over.
Just one more point, Mr. Chair. There's also in process the introduction of the escrow client accounts system with LNS for customers of land registry. And this is slated to be launched in August of 2016.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask?
I don't know who wants to go first, Mr. McLean or Mr. Miller. Okay, Mr. McLean.
Weren't all this stuff supposed to be done in 2 years? Which was, it's a year delayed, maybe now? That's what we were told. That they were recruiting someone to do that in 2 years, and after 2 years there would be no additional need for the person.
Madam Chair, I mean, Mr. Chairman, sorry, I'm in committee now, not finance committee. Mr. Chairman, I can't recall personally, and I don't know if there's any written record of the timing of this thing. So I'm not going to argue with the member whether it was said 2 years or whether it was said 3 years. What I can say is that they are well on the way with all of the various projects encompassing e-conveyancing, and I am certain that they will have been completed all by next fiscal year.
Mr. Chairman, I'll leave the minister there because he's speaking from a position that he didn't commit to. So I'll leave it the minister right there. I'm not going to press him any longer for that. Because it's negligible now, you know. That's Eagles thing. They come with their neon signs and call it paradise. Mr. Chairman, I want to ask them though, in this e-conveyancing, okay, currently any person can go to the desk and register, do a conveyance, like for their children or something of that nature. Will this e-conveyancing prevent that? Because there are many people.
There will still be the wickets open in the days for people who walk in. No. We understand that that is not for everyone. So everybody will be able to do it whichever way they want to do it. The e-conveyancing is just geared for those who who do the transactions more often. And the whole purpose of this is not only to provide efficiencies, but also to optimize the use of the resources, the human resources that the department has.
Mr. Chairman, I hear the minister, and that's what we committed to some years ago. However, I should point out, the reason I asked that question is because there are some of our neighbors where you're not allowed to do that. You have to go through a law firm or a management firm that does those things. And they're nodding, they think, you understand that I know.
Yeah,
I don't want, listen to me,
no, and I
Mr.
appreciate that concern, but I'm simply saying to you that that will not be the case with Land and Survey in Cayman. Anybody can come in and do the same thing.
Mr. Chairman, my plea to my used to be good friend anyhow, is that you, and we won't be here forever, we won't. But there will be people in this country who will not have access to the same provisions that many of us have where we can go and hire a lawyer to do that for us. My good friend, I beg of you, make sure that never happens in this country.
Well, I can't, and I'm being very, I'm not tongue in cheek here. I can't swear that that will never happen, but it'll never happen while we're here. And there is no intention. What else can I commit for? And stop saying that, because
thank
you
you.
only hear that. You don't know that.
Mr. Miller? Mr. Miller?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, does Lands and Survey have any idea of how many of these land transfer forms are out there in the public being held as a bearer bond, not having paid stamp duty on it?
How could they know that?
They do it all the time.
Yeah, but how could they know that?
Well, I just want an answer from them. The answer is no. I go, million.
Mr. Chair, hold on. Mr. Chairman, just speaking with the director, there really is no mechanism which they would have available to them to be able to discover and find that answer out.
Simple mechanism, number the forms. Through you, Mr. Chairman.
They're already out there, sir.
No, but you have a specific time to bring them in, or if it's a form that not numbered, it'll be no more good after 6 months. They'll come rolling in then.
All I'm saying is that
Yes.
that would be from here on in, not in retrospect.
Because I suspect that it could be quite a bit of money. And I based that suspicion on a survey that was done in 1990, when we found out, based on planning approvals and notices in the compass about condo projects being completed and all units sold, some 80+% of all of those units that were sold were still registered in the name of the developer at land registry. So there is some ability to audit, particularly new sales come online without the numbers. Yeah. And the law firms in this country promote it, and the real estate sales been promoted. They tell the people that don't have to pay the stamp duty.
Mr. Chairman, the director is quite happy to take on board the point of numbering the forms from here on in. And there is merit to that. Even if there's not much of it going on, it's a safeguard. But for what has transpired before, I don't think there's any real way of them knowing what may be out there still. And if you don't mind, just to make sure we're not confused, you used the term, was it bearer bonds, you said?
Well, that's what they tell the people. That's what they can hold it just like a bearer bond, because the person
comparing it to.
The
I'm with
person
you
who
now.
has that form.
Yes,
with
I understand.
A transfer or filled in, signed, and not dated. At any point in time, he can turn that into land registry, fill in the transfer.
I'm with you.
Date the two things, and not even pay a fine.
Right. Only thing is, it's going to be assessed as of that date, the value of the property. I understand, but that's my point. What I'm saying is, it might be a delay in collecting, but it won't be a delay in collecting what the value is. Is all I'm saying.
I think the mischief that Mr. Miller is referring to is that it would go through several transfers before someone tried. May I ask that we all please? It would go through several transfers before the ultimate transferee actually registered it. So the government, while the last transferee who registers would pay the stamp duty on the value at the time, you would have lost the stamp duty on several transfers in between. Yeah, that's the mischief that he's talking about.
I think it's millions of dollars we're missing.
Anyway, the director has taken on board the point, and certainly that is something that they will look at. Once it's practical, then it'll be done.
Does the director disagree that the government, in switching to that system, could give a reasonable time, 6 months or a year, that any forms that are not numbered or not turned in will not be acceptable?
Yeah. If you don't mind, Mr. Miller, if you don't mind, the director would be quite happy to have a conversation with you to make sure that he has full grasp of what you're talking about, so that we can look to see, and certainly would like to thank you for that.
Thank you. Mr. McLean, you have a question?
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank
Mr. Miller. Mr.
Yeah.
Miller has a follow-up. Sorry, Mr. McLean.
What is the government's position on this thing that's floating around in the media about leases on non-commercial property? Is the government making a serious attempt to say that people must lease
No,
and must pay, or
no.
I mean must register the lease, or
And I will explain. In fact, we had a conversation about that this morning. And through you, Mr. Chair, you certainly can weigh in whenever that time is, because you would be involved as the Minister of Finance. When the law was done, the spirit of the law was not thinking along the lines of short-term residential leases or contracts. There were some amendments which were proposed quite a while back, but never did get safe passage through this legislative assembly several years ago.
1994.
1994. So what is happening now is, when you follow the law as it is written, because it is not with clarity, is why we have the situation where one arm is saying, this is what the law says, so this is what we have to follow. But as a matter of policy, all of us fully understand that that was not the intention and not for it to be done. It is being looked at as we speak, because most of us were not aware of it until we either saw it in the papers or it hit home to somebody. But the lands and surveys simply need, and all of that is being done now by way of a cabinet paper, instructions by way of government policy to say, listen, that's not what we're doing. And the Minister Archer, what they call you again, the what?
Commissioner of Stamp Duty.
The Commissioner of Stamp Duty. So the Minister of Finance is the Commissioner of Stamp Duty, and the Commissioner of Stamp Duty has kindly agreed, even if some of us might be surprised at that he is going to issue a waiver for these people. In other words, so that lands and survey don't feel forced until such time as the law is changed, so that it will not, and hopefully we can get all of that dealt with by the time we come back to the House the next time around.
to you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm asking this question mostly for the listening public. What is the legal value of even having a commercial lease registered and paid stamp duty on it?
The legal value? Is any lease that's registered is to give the parties to the lease protection in the event that it has to be litigated.
What I'm asking is there any legal advantage to both parties, right, to actually register the lease and pay the stamp duty or not?
Yeah, well, it gives the lessee, the one who's leasing, for the benefit of the listening public, the one who's leasing, it gives them a registered interest in the property.
I think the public needed to know that, and because we don't want the next,
Can't run them out in a day and all kind of stuff like that.
right, the argument is going to come next is that, well, we shouldn't pay on commercial leases either.
Thank you. But we will make the appropriate statement once we have formalized the position. Is there?
Aye.
Mr. McLean, you were going to ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, no, I ain't doing that. Mr. Chairman, and regardless of whether you think this is a stupid question, it's not. There's something else behind it. When you see, is there when people purchase land, Caymanians, and they get it at the reduced stamp duty, no? 3-4%, them kind of thing. And then they transfer it into a company. Is that an avoidance of duties?
Depends on the circumstances. Mr. McLean, it would depend on the circumstances. If there's a sole owner of the property, and they're also the sole owner of the company, then it would not, according to the land holding company's share transfer tax law, there would be no change in the ultimate beneficial owner, and therefore they would be entitled to the waiver of stamp duty.
But if that
It depends.
if that land was purchased as a commercial,
Commercial or residential doesn't make a difference. It depends on the ownership, the beneficial
but if it
ownership.
was purchased under the company, it would attract the higher wage, right? The higher duties.
If it's purchased from person A, who has no interest in the company,
Right.
So person A transfers to the company, and there's no connection between the two, then it attracts the full rate of stamp duty.
Thank you.
Just to,
Because
just,
that's what's happening.
Yeah, but just one addition to that, with what the member said, through you, Mr. Chair. The way it is now, it's only first-time Caymanian purchasers, which that.
Along West Bay Road is 4%.
No.
In everything you purchase. Oh yeah. If you're Caymanian, it's 4% down there, then it's 7% elsewhere, I believe, or something like that. That's purchase. I ain't talking about first time. No. I'm talking about outright purchase.
I was of the impression it was 7.5% across the board for
No.
everything. No.
No. Unless you guys changed it.
Is there someone who can clarify? Mr. Hall, would you like the question to be repeated? Mr. McLean, could you restate the question, please?
What it is, oh, you do, okay. What it is, sir, when the chairman just did a little scenario. individual A buys from individual B. As Caymanian, different areas, there are different application of fees. One is 7.5, I believe, and the other for Caymanians it's like 4%, I believe. Is that still in place?
John Hall, Chief Valuation Officer in Lands and Survey. I think it is on, sorry. The first time Caymanian buyers, they get a break of 0% under buying a piece of land under a particular value.
Right.
And above that is 2% they're charged. But if you're, I think it's on the 7 Mile Strip, they don't get that break if it's a waterfront property. Like
If
in Snug Harbour and down the 7 Mile Strip, they pay the full 7.5%. Where companies are concerned, you can't classify whether they're Caymanian or not. So they, as far as I'm aware, we don't grant waivers to companies, full stop.
but
They pay the full fee. The company pays the full fee.
okay, maybe. What I'm trying to find out is what is the stamp duty applicable for Caymanian, whether it's your 20th piece of land or your 90th piece of land. I ain't talking about the first time home buyers. I'm just talking about Caymanians.
There used to be a break, Chairman. There used to be a break. It was 6% and 7.5%. Or in fact, it was 4%, I think. And that changed probably in 2011. Now it's 7.5% across the board.
It's straight across the board now.
Second time buyers, 7.5%.
Okay. And that's wherever. Okay. And the one that we're really having the problem with is that there are still properties along Snug Harbor and all about that is under the 200, you know. But we still not giving the Caymanian the breaks on it. But that's fine. That's a different matter. So, Mr. Chairman, if that's the case, that we are now back to straight across the board, then it doesn't apply. My question does not apply. Because you can't buy it, I can't buy it as Arden and then put it into Timbuktu Limited. Because, no, I wouldn't save anything, or I wouldn't be able to evade any fees. Okay.
Okay. All those in favor of PAH 9, Management of Land Information, $4,333,926, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. PAH 10, Management of Government Properties, $18,166,036 on page 154. Are there any questions? Mr. McLean?
Mr. Chairman, I got one question for the gentleman, the minister. I would like to know what is the status with the East End Civic Center? There was an upgrade planned for quite a few years now. In particular, the kitchen area, because it is used, quote unquote, commercially. And we were going to put commercial grade equipment in there.
Mr. Chairman, there are funds available in the 16-17 budget, and the facilities manager has informed me that they will ensure that it's done by the end of the calendar year. The entire works that is slated for up there.
Mr. McLean?
Yeah, I don't want to go on this, John. Mr. Chairman, trust but verify.
Mr. Conley?
Mr. Chairman, just through you, is this an appropriate time to ask about the building of the new courts house under maintenance and construction of government facilities at the lowest bullet point? Or is that in another appropriation?
I think it may be. Let me confer with them. Would, Mr. Conley, they'll take the question here.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, then through you to the minister, is the proposed courts house budgeted for in the 18-month budget? And if so, can you tell us what the timeline and plan is?
Mr. Chairman, I only wish that I could do and had resources to do all that my mind would like. And I think most everybody would wish for the same. But we do not have monies in the budget for a new courts building in this 16-17 budget. What I do know is that there is a committee which has been meeting regularly, and I have been advised by ministry staff that at a very recent meeting, they have been looking at progressing the situation forward. And once we can get to the point where if they can access, what's the name of that fund again? The proceeds of criminal conduct fund. There's a fund, but that has in the past had an impact on meeting the 3 criteria of the public management and finance law. Taking out of that would have affected the ratios. So they are looking to see how they can access some of these funds to try to see if they can get the project started, but there are no funds dedicated for the courthouse, notwithstanding the fact that we understand very well that that's a very important project. It's just not one of those that you can fix because of the size of the project by shifting a few items here or there and reprioritizing. It's just one of those that you bite the bullet when you can.
Thank you, Minister. Through the chairman, just again going back to a recent private member's motion that I authored and was seconded by the member from Bordentown in terms of audits of government buildings, in terms of renewable energy and savings. Can you tell us whether or not this is something that is going to be carried out?
Are we finished with the courts? Are we moving on?
Yeah.
Oh my!
I
was wondering the connection. Forgive me.
No, I was happy with your answer.
Forgive me. My mind was still on courts.
You told me you didn't have
All
any
right.
money for it.
Yeah. So all right. Forgive me now. So let's start. Tell me what you're saying again. Sorry. I'm sorry. You had me lost. Forgive me.
Happy to renew the question.
Yeah.
Talking about the audit of the government facilities by way of using renewable energy and other
Yes.
cost savings. Is there any funds in that 18-month budget to accomplish this. And just another part too while you're doing it, because you might have to confer. And is there any view to considering that every new government building and facility, and perhaps every building in the country, takes on a sustainable development kind of footprint?
Well, every building in the country would require some amendments to certain laws called the planning law and regulations and stuff like that. The new code that's being adopted now, the 2009 code, goes a certain distance, certainly not as far as I know that you would like, sir, but that in itself goes a certain distance. Now, you need to help me here, if you don't mind. You need to help me here, if you don't mind. I personally was of the view that the National Energy Policy Review Committee would be making recommendations of the same question you asked me. And if that's not the case, then I got it wrong. But can you help me to know that? Because if that's not the case, then I go down another road, but I didn't want to go down two roads until I find out what the first one was telling me.
Yeah, we're supposed to be reviewing that. I'm actually missing today's workshop because
Yeah,
I'm
and
here. Yeah,
It has taken place, just to let you know.
yeah. So it's supposed to review whether or not that would be a recommendation from the committee. But again, because I didn't see it anywhere in the budget, if it comes as a recommendation from the committee, then what I guess I'm asking, what will occur if there's not some sort of earmark?
If it comes at, well, as I said, I didn't have anything specific there because of what I thought, which is what you've just confirmed. But facilities management is, I want to say this, acutely aware of the direction in which we would like to go. And besides all about the environmental advantages, it's also, it could easily involve savings and operational savings when it comes to government-owned facilities is not a small amount. It's huge amounts of money. You could always, the more you can save in that regard, the more you can spend elsewhere in areas, and I'm just being truthful, education, where we always talk about more, and other matters. So we are convinced of all of that, and there's no question about it. But I can inquire, and you'll probably know just as swiftly as I do, exactly where they're going as a matter of policy with the review committee with that, so that I can know whether I wait for the couple of months and then we take those recommendations on and deal with it. And it is not a question that the facilities management won't be able to. They will be able to. We will simply set a timetable for accomplishing whatever we need to accomplish. But we're all on the same page with it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Minister, for those responses.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, we'll proceed to vote. So all those in favor of PAH 10, Management of Government Properties for $18,166,036 standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. PAH 11, Procurement and Maintenance of Government Fleet, $4,891,216 on page 156. Are there any questions? Mr. Miller, then Mr. Connolly.
Electric cars, I know it.
Jim,
Oh, Mr. Miller first, sorry. Yes.
To you, Mr. Chairman, I think it was 2 years ago, we got a commitment from this head to investigate the purchase of what I call fleet vehicles. In other words, cheaper vehicles. My observation is that we're still buying double cab pickup trucks, four-wheel drive, leather seats, power windows, power door locks, CD, 9 speakers, for one person to drive And I'm wondering what has been the results of, was there any investigation into the purchase of fleet vehicles? Which is usually a much cheaper version of the by the same manufacturer.
We have Mr. Richard Sims with us. And Mr. Chair, he was not quite sure about the question, so if it could be repeated, please, so that he can answer properly.
Mr. Miller?
Not a problem. 2 years ago, Mr. Sims, you gave us a commitment on this vote that you were going to investigate the purchase of, they might have changed the name, but I know it as a fleet vehicle. Vehicles that are built by manufacturers, cheaper version, steering wheel, gear stick, wind-up windows for workmen. What was the result of that investigation, and why are we still buying double cab, four-wheel drive, Toyotas, power seats, power windows, power door locks, sound system, 9 speakers, Bosch, 100 kilowatts? Not much. Chrome roll bar on the back. Want me to go on? Chrome bumpers. Chrome trailer hitch.
Richard Sims, Director, Department of Vehicle and Equipment Services. Through you, Mr. Chair, we are trying our best with our new policy to standardize the government fleet. We have developed some core specs for different categories of vehicles. The vehicles that we're currently acquiring, they're very basic, with very basic, they've been spec very basic, and yes, some of them do have power windows still, but as you can appreciate, member from Northside, is that vehicles nowadays, a lot of the technologies have been enhanced in the very basic vehicles. Yes, we can ask for wind-up windows, but most manufacturers are still producing power windows. But we are getting very good prices for the vehicles that we are actually acquiring, because we are buying them in bulk. It's very, very reasonable to the government. Right. And our records will show that since we have introduced this new policy that we've been working with, and we've been purchasing the vehicles in bulk, you'll see that the prices has been constantly been reducing. It's the vehicle that you're talking about, when you see the price that we're getting for, is very, very reasonable to government, I believe.
We had one vehicle described here on the earlier ministry, a Ford F-150 for what it was, $47,000. F-250 for $47,000. But what is your average price now for that you're paying a pickup truck? And when you say you're buying in bulk, are you sending it out to the local dealers and say we want 15 trucks? What's the best price you can get?
That's correct, through the chair. Through the chair, I can assure the member we have not paid $47,000 for an F-250. That might be what they're going for to the public, but our price.
Why is DOE buying a vehicle at that price and not consulting you? That's what DOE told us here a couple of days ago.
Well, through the chair, they should be consulting us whenever going out to purchasing any vehicles, because we definitely are not paying that kind of prices. For the basic 250, we're currently paying $43,000, 43,195. Through the chair, just to advise the member too as well, with this bulk purchasing, we also purchase within that price a 4-year service agreement with the suppliers.
Are there any further questions? Mr. Conley?
Mr. Chairman, through you to the minister and the director. And we had heard in the paper some time ago there was, I guess, a pilot program for electric vehicles, I think at the post office and maybe one other place. Can you tell us what the results of that pilot program was, and if there's any view to purchasing more electric vehicles, and just also if you're purchasing electric vehicles, the electric charging stations for them as well?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we have taken on one electric vehicle so far as a pilot with the post office, and it's just been in service now. It's under 6 months, and we have been monitoring the progress of that vehicle. And recently, my deputy director and a few other staff interviewed the driver or the persons who are operating that vehicle, and we have gained very positive feedback from it. And based on what we are seeing, it is our hope at some point to at least continue with the post office to look at replacing their fleet first with these electric vehicles in future. So in the program itself is working. We have seen positive results from it.
Mr. Chair, just to add to what Mr. Sims said, that policy is to be reviewed on an annual basis, and I'm sure when that review takes place that we will be looking more pointedly at the advantages of electric vehicles and but discerning where best they would be suited to be able to have discussions with those various agencies with regards to seeing how fast we can move into that. And bear in mind, one of the advantages of standardizing the fleet is spare parts. And so, likewise, moving to a certain number of electric cars, we would want to make sure we want to standardize any of the parts that would be relevant that might be needed to be stored for that. But again, once we get to the point of the review, then we'll deal with the various agencies about it.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. And then just through you, I mean, just from a matter of, I guess, information, what's the estimated savings on things like gas and maintenance on that pilot program with the electric vehicle?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the estimated savings using that particular electric vehicle would save the government approximately 1,000 gallons of fuel per annum, which equates to $4,000 per annum.
Thank you. Sorry, the second part was on maintenance. Sorry. In terms of savings in maintaining the vehicle.
Through the chair, are you referring to the savings, the electric vehicle or the vehicles general? Yes. Yes, through the chair. With the packages that we've actually been purchasing with these vehicles, it saved the government quite a bit on those packages because the service package agreements are included in the price of purchase.
When you buy a new vehicle, the 4-year service agreement that he's talking about is included in that price. So for the first 4 years, there would really be no savings on maintenance because that's included in when they buy the vehicle. So the service arrangements would be without any cost.
No, I was asking specifically about the electric vehicle and the pilot program, meaning I'm assuming there's less maintenance in that vehicle. So I was trying to ask what the savings in maintenance as well as gas was in the electric versus a normal.
But you have to compare the electric with the regular vehicle. And I'm saying the savings on the electric from the regular vehicle for the first
for
4
4
years
years.
of the life of the vehicle is already included in the purchase price. So you wouldn't realize, in other words, satisfied with $4,000 savings.
The fifth
That's
year.
what I'm saying to you.
I got you. All right.
All
Thanks.
right, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, then Mr. Connor, and then Mr. McLean.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, when a department in government or a ministry wants to purchase a vehicle, do they come to you and say, I need a vehicle for these 5 purposes, and you spec the vehicle, or do they spec the vehicle, come to you and say, get us the best price you can on this vehicle?
Through you, Mr. Chair. The department would make a request for a vehicle. We would then go through what the purpose is for, and we spec the vehicle for them. And that would be supplied based on the core vehicle specs that we have already set for the government.
I think, Mr. Chair, just to quickly add, I think the department will request whatever they wish. And then, but DVES will then look at their request and find out what they want it for, and then decide on exactly how it's done. And that's the way the policy is working. If we hadn't done the policy before, I couldn't tell you how it would be working. Yeah. But the policy is in place now, and it has made a difference, and it is recognizing savings.
Agreed, and I support that because people who know about land fish shouldn't be specing vehicles. Second question is, I forgot it now.
Okay. Mr. Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I ask Mr. Sims whether the 4-year service agreements to the Honourable Minister extends to the vehicles in the sister islands as well?
Through the chair, yes, ma'am, the service agreements do extend to the BRAC. The agreement that we have worked out with the suppliers is that they have somebody on the representative on the BRAC who is carrying out these services.
And thank you, Mr. Sims. Through you, Mr. Chair, can I also ask Mr. Sims through the Honourable Minister, well, first of all, to thank him and the Minister for their forward thinking with the acquisition and utilization of the electric car, recognizing the tremendous amount of savings and efficiency that can be realized from it, and wonder whether they would consider, obviously, the sister islands for pilot number 2. Yeah, and Little Cayman.
Mr. McLean. Oh, my apologies. Sorry.
I know you're
I thought
always support the BRAC very much, and so does the
I thought he
minister.
had answered it. You know, he
But
said,
in cases like this, tacit support is often dangerous. So,
okay.
Mr. Chair, absolutely, and I'm sure Mr. Sims will be paying close attention to any requests coming from that end to try and lean it in the direction of the electric cars. And I want to think that we no longer have to think of a pilot, but it's just a matter of expanding the fleet. I don't think we actually have to say pilot anywhere else. I think we can just say, let's get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McLean?
Mr. Mr. Chairman, I got oblige the minister and stop trying to catch your eye because so that I don't hold the minister up too long. Mr. Chairman, I wonder if they can tell us if that pilot project is that if that's a full electric car.
Through the chair, yes, it's 100% electric.
So that tells me that on your cost analysis, you use 18 gallons per week.
Yes, through the chair, that's correct.
18
About
gallons.
Average 18 gallons.
Average 18 gallons per week. What are they using that car for, and why would you use 18 gallons? Or an alternate car, a regular car, what would they be using that for?
My understanding from the postal services, their EMS, they use it as the EMS vehicle to transport mail between Georgetown and West Bay.
18 gallons a week. 18 times 22. You see where we're going, right? May I encourage you to do some, you do the calculations on that one. Do it over.
Yes, through the chair, that's something we can check and verify and pass back to the member if.
So thank you. As I sat down here on my thing and it can't work. It doesn't work out. Because you got charged batteries too. Maybe don't go there. Okay. $3 a charge every day. $90 a month. Okay, you sit down there. Mr. Chairman, may I ask, since the new system is in place for fuel management, what has been the reduction in fuel usage, or has there been any?
Mr. Chairman, through you, sir, we don't have 15, 16s yet, but the other two comparison shows roughly about between 15 and 16,000 gallons a year less being used.
And Mr. Chairman, may I ask, what is that attributed to?
Mr. Chair, I would be with a certain amount of speculation, but I think if we go back into history, we will remember that when there were a lot of question marks about the system, it was it was said that some people were getting gas for their private vehicles. It was also said,
Theft.
if you want to call it that.
Call it what it is. It
I'm
was
not,
stealing.
I'm not trying to.
Go ahead.
I'm not trying to skirt the issue. It's just that I don't have empirical evidence in front of me, so I'm trying to be a little careful. That's all. I don't have it in front of me, sir. So you would think that some of it could be attributed to that, but the system itself has some other safeguards which assist also, because it has limitations as to how much a vehicle is allowed to use within a given period of time and stuff like that. So people manage themselves better. So you get less usage of the vehicles for private purposes. And of course, to add to that, and I think we'll see more of those results in the longer run as the fleet is updated over time, because the way this policy works, the vehicles will be fully depreciated over a 7-year period, and then they'll be sold off. So that's the replacement time, is a 7-year period. And you'll find that the more efficient vehicles, as you keep buying newer vehicles, will certainly be more gracious with the use of gasoline, with the use of the fuel.
Mr. Chairman, I wonder if they can tell me how many vehicles government has that use fuel from them, off the top of your head.
That use what?
Fuel
Oh,
from
oh.
them. 4,000?
Mr. Chair, the fleet right now that DVES supplies with fuel is 973 registered units. 793 in Grand Cayman, 143 in Cayman Brac, and 37 in Little Cayman.
How many in Cayman?
793.
So on a yearly basis, we save 20 gallons.
You mean per vehicle?
Uh-huh. We need to tighten our belts.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to tighten our
But
belts.
bear in mind, not only the system, and I'm just saying this, but to really be able to say that you have a good feel for savings, I think we need to get some more vehicles into the system and get it working for a little bit longer period of time. And then we'll do better with the results.
Chairman, I want to appreciate the minister, but less than $100 a year on one vehicle, we need manager title. We need tightening the management of where people go in those vehicles, and we're not doing that.
You mean where they go?
How they use, how they're
Yeah,
used.
and of course that's system-wide. That's not DVES.
But we should be getting, if we are not getting $500-600 a year per vehicle on usage, then we
Yeah,
should.
but
we
Mr.
shouldn't be
Chair,
bothered with it.
no, but Mr. Chair, we have to compare apples with apples, because the $500 or $600 savings that you're expecting, that is making an assumption on what the usage was at the beginning, at exactly how much was being used wrongly. and that I don't have that information.
But Mr. Chairman,
So when
With
you
all due
arbitrarily
respect.
say that you're supposed to save $500 or $600, what's your baseline that you're using?
Well, the baseline is the many challenges we had up there. And let me say, maybe not 5, 6, but I know you gotta be more than $80 a year per vehicle that is being wasted. Wasted, stolen, bad management or whatever.
And I take your point about managing tighter, but I think to go from 20 gallons to $600 is
I withdrew it.
okay.
And I said,
Okay.
it got to be more than $80 or it's not worth it.
So we've gotten this far with the vehicles, and what I just want to make sure, Mr. Chair, that I understand clearly what the member from East End is saying, is that we should try to extend that to ensure that there is a bit of tightening with regards to how the vehicles are used or whether they're being used for purposes that are not for government and that kind of stuff. And I take that point.
Madam Speaker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I didn't intend to ask a question on this, but through you, can I ask the Honorable Minister to inform the committee whether the quantity of vehicles that DVES has now is the same as it did when the members asked the question? Because as the minister was saying, you really need to compare apples with apples, and if there've been an increase or decrease, it would affect. And besides, also the size of the engine. And secondly, if I could have a follow-up while I'm on the mic, through you to the Honorable Minister, could he just enlighten us as to where this management or mismanagement is occurring? And by that is what I mean. I don't suppose it is with the new system that is there that we can really attribute management. It has to go to the various departments that are using the vehicles. I don't think it would be correct to say that the management or mismanagement is with this department, and that ought to be cleared up.
Mr. Chairman, I did say in use, you know. I didn't say in distribution. I said in use, mismanagement or the use of vehicles. That has nothing to do with the distribution thereof.
Mr. Chair, I think we all understand the point that the member from East End is making, and it certainly is worth examining to the point to see what policies need to be implemented and passed down to the various departments from the ministries with regards to usage of the vehicles. It is not, to just put it into perspective, it is not so much that the fleet has increased, it is just that we have been trying to replace vehicles to bolster the fleet itself, not just to have new vehicles, but evidence has proven that the older your fleet is, the more your maintenance cost is, and DVES were to the point where the maintenance costs could have bought dozens of vehicles a year, and hence the rationale to move in this direction. And I think not just in the long term, but in the short and medium term, we will see better results and a more efficiently operated fleet for core government.
Mr. Jones, you want to say something?
Yes, if I may just just to the member, I can actually confirm that I brought this very point up at the Chief Officer meeting with the Deputy Governor about a month ago, stressed the need that the departments need to be managing their own usage. It can't all come from DVS, it has to come from each of the HODs. So I can give you a guarantee we'll keep on top of that, but ultimately we don't manage their departments, they have to take that responsibility.
Mr. Chairman, and I thank the Chief Officer for that. I was trying to be kind to everybody because my point of reference was when I was a Minister of Cabinet, and I did analysis on that. The managers are not even looking at the management report that those young men sent. what is DVES? Mind you, when I was there, you could hardly read them. But I understand the system has changed. And when I tried to put a car use policy in place, my legs were cut off me. I wish on a luck.
Before we take the vote, if I may just ask one question for my own understanding. With respect to the electric van used at the post office, what would a comparable size Ford van have cost? What was the price of the electric one? What would a comparable size Ford van cost? So what's the price difference? If you don't have the answer right now, it's fine. You can provide it to me in writing later on. Thank you. But just a comparable size, not the big F-150 van, but the same size Ford van as the electric one that's purchased for the post office. Mr. Miller, you have a question,
Yeah,
sir?
just, are there any of those 700 vehicles currently in use by the government in Grand Cayman that are parked at 5 o'clock in the evening?
Mr. Miller, can you repeat the question for him, please?
Are there any of the 700 plus vehicles in use by government in Cayman that are parked at 5 o'clock in the evening until 8:30, 9 o'clock the next morning?
Through the chair, I certainly cannot answer that question, Mr. Miller. I can only speak to my department. The vehicles, once distributed, they're under the management of each head of department.
Through you to the chief officer, in your discussion with the deputy governor, is part of the policy to be implemented that the vehicles be parked at 5 o'clock in the evening and not used privately for the other 16 hours of the day?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the general policy, I mean, speaking across whole of government, bearing in mind I don't control every ministry, is that in normal circumstances, every vehicle, government vehicle, should be parked at night. However, there are certain categories of employment, for example, Department of Environment, for example, who have an agriculture department, another one. There are lots of departments who have certain essential staff that need to be on 24-hour call, and they will sometimes be given permission to take the vehicle home in case they're called out. However, that is not to condone private use. It's supposed to be just to drive home, do any work that you have to do, bring it back into the into office. It's not for private use. I would just say again that the policy is that generally no private use is allowed. It was spoken to at a recent chief officer meeting, and I will agree to do so again.
Mr. McLean, you have a question, sir?
What do you mean, how they monitor it? Is only me one guy's in my head or what? Mr. Chairman, I understand us having policy, but policy doesn't, I mean, Cayman too small for us to have a policy, and all us don't know what that, we don't see that policy being broken. Like launching boats on Sunday.
Okay, if there are no further questions, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of PAH 11, procurement and maintenance of government fleet for $4,891,216, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. PAH 12, handling of dangerous substances, $560,051. Are there any questions, Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I shall not hold him long. Mr. Chairman, I wonder about this. If the minister can update us on this Navasota that seems to be emerging again.
Mr. Chair, whether it's emerging or not, again, I don't have any updates on Navasota because I have done nothing.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I thank him. As far as I'm concerned, was my
Understanding?
no, that wasn't my understanding. They're working under the ground and like beavers cutting the trees off. But they got to reach one that
Yeah, but-
isn't steel.
And further, okay. All those in favor of PAH 12, handling of dangerous substances, $560,051, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. PAH 13, provision of planning services, $98,521 on page 159. Are there any questions? All those in favor of PAH 13, provision of planning services, $98,521, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. PAH 14, management of planning applications, $5,034,765 on page 160. Are there any questions? Mr. Miller?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I noticed that the year-on-year 2016, calendar year 2017, there's almost $1 million increase in the cost to operate this thing. But when I look on the revenue side, I see that building permit fees is down by 1.2 million, 18 months over this current year. And planning fees is down 12%. Is that because of the NRA agreement, where we're not getting any planning fees, but we need extra staff to manage all of their submissions to planning?
Mr. Chairman, that will certainly be a part of the answer. There are, well, when I say that will certainly be a part of the answer, some of the agreements that were already in place will be with concessions. There are a couple of government projects projected also, such as the airport project, which will have a bearing on it. And there are a few anticipated projects. Yeah, but as you go along, there are fees, which you would normally, but those are going to be waived. So I'm just saying, because that in itself, that 3-year project is a fairly big project. But the agreement with Beach Bay is part of agreed concessions. So it is anticipated that there will be, by the end of the year, certainly no less economic activity, but in that specific area, for the planning fees, there may be some less. Please note that the infrastructure fees are not fees that can be waived, and that's where the majority of the funds are needed, especially since all of these projects will create the need to bolster infrastructure. The increased operational cost, Mr. Chairman, is because finally we have been able to budget in this 18-month period upcoming for 2 combination plans examiners, 1 combination inspector, and a planning assistant, 1.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, are there any funds in here for the long overdue review of the development plan?
No. Couldn't afford it, sir. The chief officer came back from the meeting which you chaired and begged and pleaded and told me he was afraid to come back down here if it wasn't done. And I told him I would take it. We were at the final, I'm not joking, we were at the final stage of the budget process when that occurred. And it wasn't that we had not thought about it before, but because of the fiscal constraints and because the first 2 budgets, we had to go 18 and then $13 million, $18 million and $13 million lower than the previous budget. It was just physically impossible. And I would, again, from an aspiration standpoint, I certainly would like to see this review completed. But I am of the view, Mr. Chairman, that any government who is going to do this, that needs to be at the beginning of, you start that at the beginning of a term, otherwise you won't get it done. That's a view that I held, or have held. But outside of that view, Mr. Chairman, it was simply just not physically possible for us to be able to budget for this review to take place in this 18-month period.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, would the minister consider in changing the legal requirement to have the review done?
You
And
mean
change
from
the
every
laws?
5 years?
Yeah, and say whenever the country can afford it, because that's what's happening, or
I
whenever the
understand.
political
I
arms are
understand.
doing.
Yeah, I understand your point, and it is something that we can consider. But I'm just leveling here. I certainly wouldn't want for us to consider that, so that it causes us to slacken up the desire or need to get it done, because it really does need to be done again. And Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to belabor this, but I'm just telling the truth. I am but one. The staff that work in my ministry are but what they are. They give of the best that they have, and there was only so much we could take on and no more, and that was not one of the things that we could take on. That's the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Tibbetts. Mr. Miller, any further questions, sir? I'm getting there. All those in favor of PAH 14, management of planning applications for $5,034,765, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. PAH 15, administration of temporary housing initiative, $38,880. Are there any questions? All those in favor of PAH 15, administration of temporary housing initiative for $38,880, standing part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. PAH 16, licensing of drivers and vehicles, $414,258. Are there any questions? All those in favor of, Mr. Miller, you have a question?
Just on the numbers and the quantity, because there's a substantial increase, but that's not reflected in the quantities that they're going to deal with. 16, PA 16, 162.
Mr. Chair, could the member be specific?
But for instance, last year we did 35,000 vehicle inspections for 75 and 60,000 vehicle license and 6,400 written road tests and 17,500 for $75,000. This year, calendar year 2017, forget the 6 months.
Okay.
We're saying that we're going to do a maximum of 38,000 vehicle inspections, only 6 to 1,000 vehicles licensed, 7,000 road tests, 21,000 full driver's license, but that's going to cost us $276,172. If there are other things that,
The difference in the cost. Well, bear in mind now that the breakers facility will be open, and there are certain operating costs for that will be included in that facility. The lease and the consumables, not just the lease, because the lease is, I think the lease is,
it should only be the rent because the consumables to license the car should be the same. Personnel,
from a no personnel cost, but the consumables will be different because it'll be another location. What?
I mean, I'm talking about electricity, that when I say the rent, the building.
Yeah, but
As
you
long
will
as-
have, you will
Mr.
have,
Chairman,
I mean,
as long
you,
as they're satisfied that the numbers
yeah,
are
you,
accurate.
and these costs are just baseline costs. I mean, you're gonna have printers up there and that kind of stuff, and you really can't say that if you use it up there, you're not gonna use it down there. It doesn't quite work like that. Not that same one, no, I agree.
But you know, it's 4 times the amount of money for the same amount of services, that's all I'm saying.
Okay. If there no, Mr. Connolly?
Mr. Chairman, he's giving way to me. Mr. Chairman, the minister and his contribution glossed over. That may not be the right word, but there wasn't any detail in that new licensing system,
The EVR,
if that's what it is.
electronic vehicle registration.
Okay, EVR. Can we get a little better understanding than that which you gave us of it?
Thank you very much. We'll make sure that somebody who is better equipped will give it to you now.
Well, I'm not.
I
you know, I
understand.
can't.
Don't worry. I certainly look forward to.
I do not comprehend.
Just a second.
No, I shouldn't admit it, but I had to say that you were right. I don't.
David Dixon, Director of Driver's Vehicle Licensing. The system at present, which would be known as the electronic vehicle registration system, will have a number of facets to it. It will have the capability to enable us to control and manage the inventory flow of registration plates. Presently, we have to order plates in bulk, which have to be stored, which require a number of floor space. So with this new system, we won't be having to store that great amount of plates. Then it will make the end of year inventory count better for audit purposes. And that way, the registration plates are barcoded for easier access of inventory, and they will have microchip for the purpose of regulatory and enforcement purposes. This would help us to reduce some of our overhead costs in terms of in-house production of those plates. The present coupons that we have now only have a lifespan of an average of 3 years, or a transaction that's conducted whether it is 3 months, 6 months, or a year. The EVR system would have a holographic validation sticker, which have a guaranteed lifespan of the minimum of 5 years. And because it is electronic, there is no need to change out a coupon at each and every transaction. The system automatically is uploaded electronically and tagged to that particular sticker. It reduces the potential for fraud, that is the illegal tampering of those coupons and transferring them to other vehicles, which will help law enforcement purposes. We're going now to the security enhancement. Again, because it's electronic, they'll have RFID technology, as I just mentioned, in terms of the microchip on the plates, the barcode, and the holographic stickers with the coupon. Barcoded, B-A-R-C-O-D-E-D. Barcoded on each plate. No barra. There'll be significant revenue enhancement and enforcement through the police services. Government will be in a better position to know how many vehicles that are within a current register. Better detection and citation for the police in terms of non-compliance of vehicles being used with expired registration or unlicensed, or illegal use of registration plates or coupons. It will encourage the owners to keep all their vehicle licenses current. And then there is a significant amount of outstanding revenue in terms of bad debt. It will help us actually keep track of that through proper auditing. At present, the turnaround time for the order of a license plate anywhere running between 4, 6, or 8 or 12 weeks, depending on the order and the supply from overseas. With the system, we can do a turnaround of the manufacturing of a plate within 24 to 48 hours or less, depending on the availability of staff or the demand of that product. Later on, there can be the add-on of the system for the purposes of assisting the NRA in keeping statistics of vehicles that pass within a given point, whether it be day, night, and the frequency of the use of a particular roadway. The police can also be able to issue citation by way of electronic ticket through the system, if need be. And then we will have the capability to do the online topping up of a vehicle license once it has been done from online in the comfort of your home, office, or even on the beach if need be. And once you pass through the reader, it's supposed to be top you up automatically. Those are the capabilities of the system.
Mr. Connolly? Oh, sorry, Mr. Connolly. Mr. McLean started the questioning. you're gonna give it to Mr. Conley, Mr. McLean? Mr. Conley?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. In terms of that electronic registration system, is there any thought about doing the same thing for driver's licenses, like they do like in the US, where you know, as long as it's within a period of time where your features and pictures don't change, just keep the normal picture and then they issue the license once you put in your details and credit card systems?
Mr. Chairman, one day at a time, sir.
I think
And we're going to do the best to get this system in place. And we may be thinking about this other one, but I don't think we'll attempt the two at the same time.
It's included.
I fooled myself. It's better than I thought. The next step from that is, but we want to get a system up and running, and then this same system will be able to do that, but we're not going to.
But I just gonna ask one other question. When it comes to vehicle inspections, do we do vehicle emissions testing now as part of that process? And if not, why not? And is it being considered? And I say that particularly because of air pollution, carbon footprint, etc.
Mr. Dixon?
Mr. Chairman, through you to the member, there is no emission legislation currently in the islands. It is something we have talked about, looked after, but we have not got there as yet. But area vehicle is checked to make sure that its muffler and emission system is properly working before it is passed in terms of emitting of smoke, etc. Once it passed and go on the road, we have no control over it from that point. Once it go on the road, we don't have no enforcement powers. Unless a complaint is received to us, we have powers to go to any place and inspect the vehicle and deem it to be unroadworthy. Apart from that, no other powers. Section 52 of the law.
You have that ability? If someone makes a report that you can go to the location?
We do have that, Section 52 of the law.
Absolutely. There is enforcement capabilities in the law.
I'm hoping that the listening public got that because there are many cars that I see that you literally have to shut down your air conditioning within your car or close your windows because the amount of smoke that's spewing from the exhaust. So I wasn't aware that you could do that.
We do.
Thank you.
We do, Mr. Chairman, have that power within
Thank
the
you
law.
very much.
Section 52.
But we're just saying, Mr. Chairman, the director's just saying that once they go on the road, they don't have an authority. They do.
No, but what he means,
we do
unless
unless we get a
reported,
complaint.
he said unless we're told about it.
Without a complaint, we can't do nothing, Mr. McLean.
With the lawyers.
We would have to see it.
Yeah, Mr. Conley, while he searches the law.
I was just going ahead and pushing that same theme forward in that what would be an impediment to not making that standard? So when you go and check your, when you go to inspect your car, you do that, or you can do it at, say, specific service stations you could almost create a cottage industry or something for new entrepreneurs doing that, say, an existing facility where once they pass, the certain test and you're satisfied, but do it in line with the car inspections. Because as we're going forward and we see a number of used, say, Japanese vehicles and things on island, the reason why they're getting rid of them is sometimes because of the emissions, etc. And we're importing it and just letting it be. So, I mean, my suggestion would be that we do it as a matter of course with the inspections of the normal inspections of vehicles.
To get to that stage, we certainly need to deal with emission legislation. We've talked about it, just haven't gotten there yet, but point well taken. I was going on to say that doesn't happen because you say it must happen. It also requires resources and equipment to make it happen. And it certainly is something that we aspire to, but I don't see it happening in the immediate because I just don't think we have the resources to do so. But certainly don't mind the discussion and just want the members to know that we're on board. It's just that you got to keep working at every little thing to keep getting there. So I don't want to give a commitment that will be done in the immediate, but I certainly give the commitment that as soon as it is possible, we will do our best to make it happen, because it is not something that is new to us and it is not something that we have not discussed. It's just that the resources are finite and we'll see how far we get. I know that's not what some of us would like to hear, but I can't do any better than I can.
Mr. Suku, you have a question, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, how confident are we that the mechanic shops and so forth that we use to inspect vehicles are operating above board in terms of not passing vehicles in exchange for some form of payment?
Mr. Chairman, through you to the member, we currently have 13 licensed vehicle inspection facilities, including DVS as one of those. The other 12 are only licensed to inspect vehicles up to 10,000 pounds. The department currently, once an application is received for a facility to be considered as an approved garage, goes through a rigorous inspection process, and that it is checked to make sure that it has the fire extinguishers, eye washdown stations, the necessary liability insurance.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, just to save time, my question is, are they operating in a manner that may be illegal? Because it's been pointed out to me that one or two of them may actually be passing vehicles that are not roadworthy.
I was getting there
Okay.
to that point, but I just had to lay the groundwork first to show that once the application is processed, they're actually trained by a member of staff to make sure that they understand what the requirements of the law and the regulations are in terms of being compliant with those inspections. Once a garage is found not to be compliant, a disciplinary action is followed by that particular inspector being struck off for disciplinary for a period of time. It could be anywhere from 3 days up to 6 weeks, or it could be indefinite, depending on the seriousness of the breach of the law of regulations.
And just to add to that, Mr. Chair, while one may say that it is more an honor system than anything else, the fact of the matter is that the inspectors, the vehicle inspectors at DVES, the garages are aware that when they know that a vehicle is coming in from one of the garages, when I say when they know, in other words, they can do spot checks at any time to ensure the garages are towing the line. So the garages don't know if they give somebody a break, whether that's going to be tested otherwise. And that's the check and balance in place. It is difficult to really do more than that with the resources that they have. But people are saying anything, and I'm not suggesting that it might not happen, but they are aware during training what possibilities exist, and from time to time, they are checked.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I was going to follow up with that question of whether or not there are spot checks or the ability to do spot checks, because I think just to say it publicly so they know that we're aware.
Absolutely. Well, the fact of the matter is, forgive me, please, through you, Mr. Chair, The fact of the matter is, some garages have been suspended already.
Yeah.
Just letting you know.
And what some are in the practice of doing is saying to the individual, well, you know, I'll pass it for you, but you need to come back here so I can fix these problems and put you on a payment plan, and they get a little business out of it. That's what I'm being told. Of course, nobody is saying to me, well, a specific garage is doing it, because they know I'll probably raise it in this forum. So, but I'm being told that it may not be rampant, but it does occur.
And airing it publicly is good. And reminding us to remind them to do their spot checks is also good.
Mr. McLean, then Mr. Miller.
Mr. Chairman, two questions coming out of that, and then I have another one. How often do we double check these vehicles to audit the garages? And two, what percentage of inspections are they doing now? Or the reverse, what percentage we're doing? It doesn't matter.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the member, the garages are inspected randomly through a strict audit process to ensure that they're in compliance with the regulations and the law. If the minister will bear with me, I'll get some stats to tell him what is the percentage that we are currently doing.
And by the way, I didn't ask if the garages were audited. I want to know if the vehicles are audited.
I'm not quite sure what I'm following him because
Mr. Chairman, I think they said earlier to verify that what Mr. Suku was asking was how we know whether or not these garages are not just telling people for money that they'll inspect it. And the response was that they would. So I'm asking, how often do they do those spot checks? Like, everybody comes in that is issued a ticket, a final inspection at the garage, has to come to your office to license it. I'm asking, how often do you double check them there?
Mr. Chairman, through you to the member, this could happen in a number of scenarios. If we get a complaint that a garage did not do the proper checks, we will ask for that vehicle to come into our facility to be checked. That could happen anywhere from once or twice a month. It all depends on the facility or the number of complaints we receive that a check was not done properly.
Mr. Chairman, can I do this again, please? On your own initiative, forget about complaints, forget about reports. On your own initiative, how often you do it?
Mr. Chairman, through you, trying to answer the member. We are actually constrained by the number of staff that we have, that we just can't physically go and do it every week or every month. We actually depends on whether or not we receive a complaint that a particular inspection process was not carried out properly. Then we will take the initiative and have that vehicle come in to be properly tested by us.
I think,
And about 63% of the garages were inspected last year.
Mr. Chairman.
If I may,
Chairman,
Mr. Chairman.
Am I not speaking clearly enough?
Mr. Chairman, I understand it.
asked what percentage of inspection do they do?
Mr. Chairman, I understand
Mr.
exactly
McLean.
what the member from East End is asking.
I was getting that answer, but he just kept asking.
It's okay. With regards what the member from East End is asking, I am not, sitting here, I'm not able to answer exactly if there is a specific policy and how many times it's done. But I can assure the member through you, sir, that that is something that immediately will take place, even with the limited resources they have, so that there is a systematic check and balance on this situation and not just being told about it. And it is not something that you have to do everyone, but it is something that they must know that you're doing it on a regular basis and they don't know which one is going to be checked. And I'm sure that's what the member from East End is talking about. And that's something that we have to put in place.
Yeah, you understood it as I did.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know, because they were saying that these things are done. And now we are hearing that on the department's own initiative, they do not double check these vehicles that are inspected elsewhere. From Mr. Saku, what I can carry on and say, people go to licensing department, get failed. They go to the garage, get the slip, come back in the parking lot, but don't go on the ramp and walk inside and license their vehicle. That's what I'm talking about. How?
We understood the question.
But we're saying now that
No, what
Oh.
Mr. Dixon answered to was the number of times that they would check the garages. What you were asking about is the number of times that they check the cars that are passed by the garages, right?
and what percentage of the total inspections on the island are they doing? Because when we put this system in place, it was only 7% they were doing it. So I'm just trying to get some information.
Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Miller?
sound from vehicles, both from the mufflers and music. What are the regulations governing those vehicles?
Mr. Chair, can the member just quickly repeat?
Yeah, I'm asking what regulations exist in the traffic law for this department to govern sound from vehicles, both from non-manufactured mufflers and from music systems,
You mean
aftermarket in the cars.
You mean when it comes for inspection or when it's on the road driving?
Both.
Because when it's on the road driving, it's not going to be DVDL's responsibility. They don't have.
But the police tell me that they've licensed them in that condition, and the owner tell them that the licensing department have passed their car. They're doing the same thing with tint.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to argue with what you just said, but I'm saying let's get it clear. You said both when they come to get inspection and on the road. And I'm saying to you, on the road, because obviously, if I'm reading the point that you're making, Mr. Miller, what you're saying is there need to be some legislative changes. That's the first thing, based on what you're saying. Because, I mean, let's draw the lines where they should be drawn. The DVDL cannot monitor or police loud noises coming from an exhaust system or a muffler or from speakers in a vehicle. They can't deal with that on the road. Just let me finish, please, because I think I understand you. And you're saying that when the police stop these people, they say that DVDL licensed them, which gives them permission to do it on the road. So I'm saying to you, if that's the case, some loophole needs to be closed. That's all I'm saying to you. Because I understand. But DVDL can't monitor them on the road. Therefore, from what you're saying to me, the police, when they tell the police that DVDL licensed them, nobody can prove that either. They could well have gotten licensed, and just like they do the tint, after they get the vehicle out of the compound, they put the tint on, or they put in the speakers, or they put on the wah system in the muffler or whatever.
Mr. Chairman, let me see if I can.
In other words, if the police stop and they say that DVDL licensed them, that is really no excuse. The police should do their job.
Agreed.
So I'm trying to tell you, don't drag our friend where he can't go.
No, but
That's what I'm saying.
the director just informed this committee that they have the power to come to my house if they get a complaint about a vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I complain, we got about 2 motorcycles in my district and about 3
Where
cars
that thing is I give you back.
that disturbs the community every evening of the week.
Yeah, but what he's talking about is a vehicle being roadworthy, not sound.
That is why I asked the original question, Mr. Chairman. Does the DVD have the authority when they're inspecting vehicles to require original manufacture equipment on as mufflers? And how can he say earlier that they have in place the required manufacturing for emissions? Because some of these cars with these straight exhaust pipes and these loud mufflers can't possibly be complying with manufacturer specifications. And I've been around cars that what?
Mr. Chair, just give me a minute.
And there used to be, in the old traffic law, there was actually a decibel reading, which they could enforce on mufflers. Is that been removed from the regulation, and whether we need to put it back or not? Within a certain distance, they couldn't exceed a certain number of decibels.
Mr. Chairman, this road is a long one for this little one. I'm being told that what the member from Northside is speaking about now is in the towns and communities law, not in the traffic law.
I know there's a nuisance thing in the town and community as well. But are you telling me that when
I'm not telling you anything, sir.
No, but suggesting, and based on what they're telling you,
Yeah.
that I can bring my car in there, completely replace the exhaust system with just one straight pipe, no carbon catalytic converter. The mufflers are replaced by these huge sounding ones, right? And they license the car.
No.
But they do it every day of the week.
Mr. Chairman, we're gonna get bogged down here. And I'm serious, what I'm going to ask the member from Northside to do is to give me an opportunity to put the dots where they should be, and I will get back to you, because I take your point well, and I think the main thing here is the pass the buck situation, and it seems like nobody can latch on to these people and find, in other words, have a tool to say, listen, if you want this on the road, this is what you got to do, otherwise you're going to get your fine or whatever else. And that's what we need to accomplish, because it seems like it's going from pillar to post now without being able to get any glue on anything. If you just allow me some time, sir, I will look to deal with that. Thank you.
Anything I can do to help you figure it out, you have my support.
You know I can depend on you.
We got to do something.
Thank you. And I agree with you. I agree with you.
People are going to run plastic line across the road.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Dixon, you mentioned earlier about the EVR having a microchip feature capability that helps with enforcement, and you mentioned another benefit of the chip. Did I understand you correctly? When you're reading the benefits of it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Benefit chip was to check the inventory of the actual plates and to assist law enforcement in terms of electronic ticketing
Electronic ticketing.
for speeders if need be.
Okay, but it doesn't have, you can't use that to track location, the chip.
You can track location to the chip
Okay.
with RFID
And
readers.
that feature is automatic or it has to be turned on?
That's automated through the RFID.
Perfect.
Once that's installed on the vehicle, that's it.
So,
That's almost your GPS
so when
for that vehicle.
So when you need to locate a vehicle, you don't go searching all over the place. You know just where to go within a reasonable proximity.
Once you go through the system, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr.
Can't do
McLean?
that.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to bring to the attention of the minister that the law says the governor and cabinet may make regulation prescribing all matters that are required or permitted to be prescribed or are necessary or convenient to be prescribed as to the use of vehicles, trailers, and pedal cycles on roads, that bicycle, their construction and equipment and the conditions under which they may be used, and in particular regulation may provide for. The width, height, and length of vehicles and trailers, the condition and diameter of wheels, and the width, nature, and condition of tires of vehicles and trailers. B, the emission or consumption of smoke, fumes, or vapor. And then 64 says, if a vehicle inspector has reason to believe that a vehicle being driven or being present on a road is not in roadworthy condition or fails to comply with this law and regulation, he, A, may at a reasonable time enter a public place where that vehicle is to be found and there inspected, or B, may stop that vehicle on the road and carry out such inspection or tests as appear to him to be desirable. In the absence of a vehicle inspector, constable who has reason to believe that a vehicle being driven or being present on a road that is not in roadworthy condition or fails to comply with this law or regulation shall order that vehicle to be taken off the road and may exercise the powers conferred on a vehicle inspector under section 62.
Mr. Chairman, just so that the member will know, I read that 5 minutes ago, hence why I spoke to Mr. Miller in the way I did, asking him to give me some time to get my head around it so that I could know exactly which course of action to take and how to deal with it, which was in the most expeditious manner. I did refer to the emission legislation, and that's what I was talking about earlier on. So I do take the point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I understand you may have read it, but nobody else heard it.
Thank you. All those in favor of PAH 16, licensing of drivers and vehicles for $414,258 standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. PAH 17, services to farmers, $3,737,212. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I only got one. That is, what happened with the farmer's card? IDs.
Mr. Chairman, no, I can't say that. The director will answer.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. It's being used at this time. We have the commercial and the non-commercial categories.
Okay, so all the farmers can come and get their ID issued then, you're saying?
Yes, they
Where
they,
is it?
they have to do the application and then they're assessed and they will get their cards issued.
That's a new one. I'm talking about all those that have been outstanding for years and they didn't have a system, I believe, or something.
Yeah, it's the same one we're speaking of.
And they're gonna be assessed again?
No, well, those are the new applicants.
Oh, okay.
Because we have issued 209 commercial farmers and there are 76 non-commercial.
Mr.
Not about
Mr. Estwick, I have one question on farmers. What is the criteria for someone to be registered as a farmer? Or what are the categories and what's the criteria?
Yeah, the categories are commercial and non-commercial. I could provide you with the documentation. I don't have it right here.
Okay,
But-
okay, not looking at the commercial category, but more the non-commercial category. The reason I'm asking is because, well, let me not say why. What is the criteria for non-commercial, for someone to be registered as a non-commercial farmer?
Well, that's just the one, like a backyard producer.
That's all.
Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just quickly, that is to encourage backyard farming within the community. And so when, I know that everybody else has their plea, but when we cry for one more extension officer, it is because we hear the cries of the backyard farmer who is asking for assistance and we just don't have the resources to get out there and be preemptive instead of reactive. But we struggle along and do the best we can.
What are the benefits of a quote-unquote backyard farmer?
Just a discounted price
On
on agricultural inputs. No. Oh, yes, the extension officers, we go to all members of the community and give them advice.
what about, what's the nexus between farming and gun licensing?
That's linked to a commercial. We only write letters for persons that are registered as commercial farmers. But that whole link is one where the statement speaks to a waiver of the gun license fee. We don't make the recommendation as to if that person should have a gun license or not. It is about the fee. It's a waiver of the fee. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How much is the fee? I have a reason, and I'll speak with you off air.
Certainly.
Because there does appear to be some abuse.
Yeah, and I think we have spoken about this here at Finance Committee, where it seems that persons are encouraged to
come to agriculture and be registered as a farmer, but we have always said, and we emphasize that that's not what the process is, and that's not what our role is. Our role is to make a statement as to if you are indeed involved in farming activity, and write a letter that speaks to that. It isn't about us saying that you should have a shotgun license or anything of that manner. That's not within our remit at all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If there are no further questions, then all those in favor of PAH 17, services to farmers for $3,737,212, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. ERA 12, support to National Energy Policy Secretariat, $50,000. Are there any questions? Mr. Miller?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chairman. Where in the budget is the funding for the Utilities Commission?
I think we got the invoice for that post-budget.
Can you introduce
Oh,
yourself?
excuse me, Mr. Chair. Louis Boucher, Deputy Managing Director of the ERA.
Thank you.
Got an invoice for the Utilities Commission from who? Kurt, you sent mine invoice?
It's not come yet.
Through you, Mr. Chair, in answer to the question, assuming the OCR is approved and put into law, the relevant agencies, be it ERA, ICTA, or CPI, those funds will effectively just come from this existing budget and be put into the new entity. In the CPI's case, that will involve the transfer of some funds from our ministry budget into the new OCR one to cover the CPI costs.
In other words, the funds in the budget now are for the individual entities. When they come together, they will all just be amalgamated, including the funds.
There are no further questions, then all those in favor of ERA 12, support to National Energy Policy Secretariat for $50,000, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. ICT 8, drafting instructions for the development of legislation, $45,798. Mr. McLean?
Mr. Chairman, these are all under one head, you know. It's about four. One, two, three,
You referring to the ICT?
four. Yeah.
You want to do them in
4,
block?
5,
You want to vote them all in block?
6, 7, I believe. Yeah.
No, without the
No,
questions,
no,
Mr.
no.
Chairman.
A couple
I'll vote
questions
them
I
in
need
block,
to
but
ask, but
You have questions?
I need to know something being done about
I think it's 7.
So for the record, let me read them into the record, and then we question them all together. And then we vote them all together. ICT 9, management of KY internet domain, $37,500. ICT 10, collection and verification of license fees, $150,575. ICT 11, policy advice on ICT matters, $65,636. ICT 12, education of local businesses and the general public on ICT issues, $12,323. ICT 13, regional and international representation for $63,903. And ICT 14, national cybersecurity initiatives, $112,500. Questions, Mr. McLean?
Mr. Chairman, not enough money here even worry about, but that's besides the point. I need to ask the managing director about since the the amendment giving more authority to levy fees on non-compliance. How is it working? Have we had occasion or reason to utilize it?
Mr. Chairman, I know that
No, you can answer though.
the managing director was asked, but just so that the member will know, going through the whole process of getting it assented to and gazetted, it is probably only about a week now. A few days, in fact, 2 days since it's actually been in effect, so it's a bit difficult for him to give you an update, but I'm sure if you ask him in another month, he'll be able to tell you.
Okay. And I understand the wheels of justice grind real slow, especially around here. Mr. Chairman, what I need to find out from is this build out? Because eastern and north side, in particular 3 eastern districts, are treated so unfairly with fiber optics and I guess for that matter, Cayman Brack, but there's 2 of them up there, and only me, 1 in eastern. But they got the power. 2 of them on that side, only 1 we out there. You starting again? You like your political spin, but you don't want me to say anything. Stop, I'm gonna stop crying. Well, it's you causing it, you gotta wipe up the tears too. Mr. Chairman, I wonder if you could tell us what the status is with the build out up there with fiber optics.
Mr. Chairman, we have a number of licensees who have what's called Ali Favoy, Managing Director, ICTA.
Thank you.
Licensees all have different obligations to deploy fiber in Cayman. Unfortunately, they're not uniform. Some of them have obligations to deploy fiber across all 3 islands. Some of them have obligations just in Grand Cayman. However, what we found is that the one thing they all have in common now is that they're all in violation of their obligations. They have not met the deadlines for any of their fiber rollout obligations. What we have suggested to all of our licensees, we saw this coming a long time from last year when they were slow to deploy their fiber networks, and we had a major dispute between the licensees and CUC's subsidiary Datalink on how they should attach their fiber cables to the poles. We subsequently made a determination on one of those major disputes to help clear the path so that they can start attaching to poles and roll their network out. But the truth is, there's simply not enough business in rural areas to justify 4 or 5 of them building out 4 or 5 different fiber optic networks. So what we have suggested to all of the licensees in conversations thus far has been to work with us to explore how we can use a universal service to build a single fiber optic network that they can all share the cost of. To that end, Mr. Chairman, there is a provision of the ICTA law that enables this to happen with a mechanism called the Universal Service Fund.
Yeah.
And we've been working with the ministry to bring that section or several sections of the law into force so that we can move ahead with what we saw come in, which was an inability for them to deploy fiber networks properly across all 3 islands.
So we're trying to get that universal stuff in place. All right, and Mr. Chairman, I think it needs to be done because you can't make contractual agreements with a government and then renege on them, and just to get in because that was obviously the objective, to get in and nothing else. And in the deregulation, I like to call it deregulation, old school, we we did it in good faith, with good intent from the government side. I think it was Mr. Linford and then the speaker, and then myself. But being a talk about me, I had too much arguments with them. But we really need to put that universal section in place in order that ICTA can enforce it upon them. The other one is, I'm still concerned about, because the reason I believe this country has the greatest penetration of cell phones, is because people can't round 2 and 3, so that they don't have to call cross providers because of the cost being so high, the termination cost. Have you been successful or able to get that equalized?
Mr. Chairman, there's a number of regulatory issues at stake, but there are also commercial issues. The commercial issues are really the ones that are holding things back in terms of what one carrier pays the other. We have made it abundantly clear to everyone that the law makes a provision for this to be fair and equitable, and just the same as any opposing game tends to have strategy and politics, there seems to be a degree of gamemanship going on right now between the parties.
Mr. Chairman, let me say, there were some technical terms I used it in which most people listening to us may not understand, but that is the greatest impediment to the reduction of cost on cellulars, on telephones, termination costs. And it's what one, if I call Digicel, Cable and Wireless now called Digicel, what did Cable and Wireless has to pay Digicel to terminate there, and vice versa. And that's the biggest problem that we need to do. Hopefully the $500,000 will make somebody, will trim somebody, sail close to the wind.
Mr. Miller?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I don't know what the problem is, but the telephone service in the constituents of Northside that I represent has actually deteriorated during the last 6 months. And a lot of times, don't think this is good for as a flashlight. And I got a couple of them in my house already. And the TV that they come to your house and guarantee it'll work, whether the phone work or the internet will work, mine been out now 3 days. Anytime you have a shower rain, that's it. They made me rewire my complete house at great expense, nothing has helped. What standards are the ICT holding these two companies, Digicel and I don't know what the other one is called. I used to call it careless and whatless. Now they call it flow or flea or flow or flim or flam. To in terms of delivering what I am paying them for.
Mr. Chairman, one of the strategic objectives that the authority has, I think the minister has mentioned on the floor of the House, is quality of service. We are tackling that through a number of regulatory measures now that we have teeth. And we have put together about 4 different regulation packages. The first is consumer protection. We saw that the Law Reform Commission was looking at consumer protection broadly across the country, but we felt that it just wasn't going to happen quickly enough for us to address the complaints that we're hearing on a weekly basis. So we shared with the with the Law Reform Commission the work that we have done in putting together a consumer protection regulation package that is specific to telecoms. We've let them know that we're not going to wait on the broader legislation that they're working on. They understand that. And we're prepping the consumer protection regs to be sent to ministry for consideration before we send them out for public consultation. That'll happen within a week. The second is what we're calling ISP broadband regulations, basically dictating the rules around how internet service provider delivers service. So in other words, they must deliver 80%, for example, of what you've contracted them to provide during the high traffic period. So it's no good for it to be really wonderful when you're at work and crappy when you get home to watch TV at night. It's got to work during the high traffic period. There's a lot of technical work going into how we define the high traffic period, how we measure these things, how we measure it in the BRAC versus West Bay versus Georgetown, et cetera. So a lot of work is going into making sure that we can make it stick and that we can enforce it. The third thing we're looking at is advertising guidelines. We're starting to see a lot of flim-flam with regards to claims from one provider to the other. So we're putting into place a number of guidelines that are based on European best practice for how providers should represent itself in advertising its services. And the fourth set of regulations that we're working on are, or the draft is ready, is something called network quality. Mr. Chairman, a lot of the outages that we've been experiencing over the last couple of years are due in part because of connections between Cayman and other countries failing. Key components of our network infrastructure are located in other countries like Jamaica, and they simply don't work. We are preparing, we tried to work with the licensees to get them to bring some of that equipment back. We met with resistance, so now that we have the regulatory teeth in the new amended fines, we can aggressively pursue a new regulation which would require all of that equipment and all of those services to be brought back into jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Does that include the customer service so that I don't have to hand the phone to my wife to speak Spanish to somebody that I call Cable and Wireless to report a complaint to?
That's a separate issue, but it's on the list.
Okay. Is it necessary for me to take a breach of contract suit against them, or can I rely on the ICTA to enforce that they must give me what they have contracted with me to do it?
The draft consumer protection and ISP broadband regulations will enable a customer who has been aggrieved to get out of their contract without financial penalty. They just need to demonstrate that they tried to make it work with the provider, bring that evidence to to us basically, and we will basically give them an out, allow them to switch contracts.
Have you been, or do you ask the two main providers, Digicel and Plo, to give you a capital outlay for equipment and technology over the next 3 or 4 years, or because I've heard some of them saying that they're not spending any more money in Cayman for the next 5.
We've not seen evidence of that. We've seen continued investment by all of the providers, not just those two, but the others as well.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to say to the director, what is in Jamaica? Switching black dog for more, okay? It don't make sense get out the contract, you gotta go to the other one.
Mr. McLean, Mr. O'Connor Connolly was in 9, like next in line.
No, it was,
Just a
comment, I'm sorry.
Okay. Mr. O'Connor Connolly and then Mr. Suku.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I just ask for a progress update on the CIG TV as to the prospects of going to the sister islands, if any, and what time?
SIG TV is let's be clear, the government broadcasting. What we've discussed with all of our licensees is the concept of public service broadcasting. It's something that other countries have long ago addressed, the need to get government information, local news, weather, sports, community service, community information, and community access, such as churches and schools, access, low-cost access to airwaves, and setting up a framework to do that. It's challenging because there are provisions in their cable TV licenses that need to be adjusted. There's provisions in the radio FM broadcasting licenses that need to be adjusted. So we asked our board to give us more time to work on these new FM broadcasting licenses, to renew them this year. And we've been meeting with the FM broadcasters to figure out how we can take all of the broadcasting forward and in such a way take a subset of FM broadcasting and all of the TV up to the sister islands. Mr. Chairman, things like this, the broadcast of these sessions, parliamentary procedures. The other thing that we've talked to some of our providers about was streaming it in such a way that in the BRAC they could rebroadcast it on a local channel, or somehow use some of the new technology to get those services over there. And we continue to work with them on finding a low-cost solution while we work on the longer-term solutions.
Thank you. Mr. Saku?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. I try to be careful how I speak about this, but I understand the largest provider is currently being, or in a little bit of hot water of immigration offenses, potentially. How confident are you that that provider is 100% meeting their obligations in terms of licenses and royalties?
Mr. Chairman, in terms of meeting their license obligations?
And royalty, and fees
royalty.
and so forth. Because you mentioned something that I've been thinking about lately and trying to figure out if it may be a potential risk. But if their infrastructure is located elsewhere, traffic is going through that infrastructure, could they potentially be booking that traffic in another jurisdiction that's cheaper to operate in, although it's Cayman traffic?
Mr. Chairman, the concerns that the member is expressing, unfortunately, are just some of the many concerns that the authority has in how this particular licensee conducts their business. Without giving too much away, there's an ongoing investigation, only some of which has reached the headlines of the paper, local papers, and focuses on things that have nothing to do with us, which are immigration matters, which we leave in the capable hands of another agency. However, we have our own ongoing investigation into a number of issues. We meet regularly with the Immigration Department because we're looking at some similar matters, just to make sure we don't trip over each other. But the level of confidence that we have in the numbers that are given to us by this particular licensee is very low. It is one of the areas that we are actively looking at. And I would ask you to leave it there.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yeah, I wasn't planning to go any further because I realize the potential. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I don't like to be rushed. So we will now take all of the ICT appropriations in block. All those in favor of ICT 8, drafting instructions for the development of legislation, $45,798. ICT 9, management of KY internet domain, $37,500. ICT 10, collection and verification of license fees, $150,575. ICT 11, policy advice on ICT matters, $65,636. ICT 12, education of local businesses and the general public on ICT issues for $12,323. ICT 13, regional and international representation, $63,903. And ICT 14, national cybersecurity initiatives for $112,500. Standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. NHT 4, administration of the Affordable Housing Initiative, $218,288. Are there any questions? All those in favor of NHT 4, administration of the Affordable Housing Initiative, $218,288, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. NHT 5, administration of the government guaranteed home assisted mortgage, $346,553. Are there any questions? All those in favor of NHT 5, Administration of Government Guaranteed Home Assisted Mortgage, $346,553, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
You were trying to ask a question, Mr. McLean? NHT 6, Administration of New Affordable Housing Initiative, $281,053. Are there any questions? Mr. McLean?
Mr. Chairman, I was just asking the minister to update us on whether or not, or why we haven't seen more houses built. Additional now.
Mr. Chairman, forgive me, Mr. Chairman, the NHDT has been concentrating on the existing homes, trying to get them sold. They're nearly all, though the vast majority have been, they are in the process of turning the lease to own properties for those who are able to get financing to have them own the property, because we firmly believe, Mr. Chairman, that social housing is a totally separate matter from affordable housing. There is an absolute need for social housing, but anytime you mix the two, you get bad results. One has to be handled on its own, either way. So where we are right now is the trust is with enough funds to proceed on, and there is a roadway situation in Bordentown that they are, I think, very close to getting sorted out. In fact, I can say so with confidence now. And then I think there are 16 homes there that already they have planning permission for, outline. Yeah, they have, part of the master plan was that they have to get final planning permission. But those are the next 16 which we will start, and they have funds to do that. And as soon as that roadway gets sorted out, because planning has required a second access to the subdivision, and as there are 2 or 3 options being looked at, once they get that sorted out and NHDT is able to advise planning, then they will proceed with the other 16. There's land available there. The land has already been filled. So the fact that that's fastest growing area also is dictating that that's where the next set will be built.
Mr. Chairman, I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, but don't I recall us discussing an adjoining landowner given permission to go through their property for the to build a road, but we had to give them a piece of property or something, or build a road and they could use it or something?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, that option is still there, and the National Housing Development Trust and its board are looking at that option. To the best of my knowledge, I, like you, sir, at one point in time thought that the whole matter was sorted out. Seemingly not quite. I think simply because they are looking at another option which may be cheaper, and their main concern is getting road access. to the premises. I'm not in a position, because I don't have any more information, to be able to say anymore until they get the matter sorted out. But I'm told the matter will be sorted out very shortly because, as I said, they do have the funds, and there's absolutely no reason why the construction shouldn't go on as quickly as possible, because I do believe there are also clients who are sitting waiting for the opportunity.
But, Mr. Chairman, I thought that, and again, maybe my memory is getting a little clouded here, but I thought that it was government who was going to build a road for it. This is 2 years ago, so you can appreciate I'm a little cloud on that one. But
Mr. Chairman, I understand and appreciate the members' thoughts and cloudiness, because my mind is pretty similar to that, but I can only tell you what I've been told a week ago.
Okay,
And
that's fine, Mr. Chairman. It was just that was my memory.
Yeah, and you were right.
Oh, what? Okay.
At the time, you were right.
This time I was right.
At the time, you were right, because I
Okay.
thought the same thing you did.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, 3 years on, and you mean there hasn't been a clamor to get some homes done? Well,
Mr. Chairman, there's nothing else I can tell you besides what I just told. Nothing else I can tell him besides what I just told him. He could say all that he wants to, but I can't tell him anymore. So.
Thank you, Mr.
No,
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I know there was this talk of 700 and odd homes that applications had been made for. I can't say that all those would have qualified. But here we are, 3 years into this administration, probably 2 in the other administration, that no homes have been built. That's all I'm asking.
Madam, Mr. Chairman,
It's okay.
you forgive me, because please forgive me. Mr. Chairman, we don't have any large amount of applications hanging on to. We have a few homes that are not sold yet. We have a couple that are waiting on the closures. I think there's one left in East End, if I remember correctly. There's one home left, and sorry, and the potential client is at the bank for that one. So we're just about totaled out with available homes, and we need to build these more. But there are not a huge number of applications sitting there pending. That is not the case. What we're nearly there with now, as I mentioned, and as soon as we can get out of Finance Committee, I'll do my best to organize the closing of that, is to get a new guarantee through this legislative assembly and sign the new agreement with the lending institutions in order to proceed with the GG HAM program. And that's where huge benefits will be able to be derived, because I know that there are many people who qualify but don't have the collateral to be able to get mortgages, and that's the next impetus that we're looking to give thrust to, along with getting the 16 homes built, and that should keep them busy for a while.
Mr. Chairman, I thank the minister, but I would like to make it clear that the house in East End is a one-bedroom. And from the beginning, that was a colossal waste of government funds. Single people don't even want one bedroom now. That one bedroom, I suspect you're going to have to add on to it to be able to get it sold or knock it down.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, all I can advise again is wasn't under my watch. I'm not suggesting that you're suggesting that, sir. I'm just saying it was not under my watch. That's all I'm saying. No. I'm not suggesting that you're saying that, but I want everybody to understand that it was not. And I happen to agree with you. Big time. Aye.
Mr. Conley?
Mr. Chairman, through you, the homes in West Bay and the issues there with the neighbors, is that sorted out now?
I'm told the majority of that is sorted out, if not all of it. Completely sorted out, I'm told.
And the people are in the homes?
Are you speaking, let me make sure before I jump in and answer the thing. Are you talking about the new homes, sir?
The new homes that
Yeah, the new
people
homes.
could move into?
The new homes. Yes. How many got left? Two? Okay. The issue of encroachment is sorted out, and they've been closing gradual on the homes, and there are a couple left which they're into the bank looking to finish them off.
If there are no further questions, then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of NHT 6, administration of the new affordable housing initiative for $281,053, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. NHT 7, administration of the build on your own property initiative, 25,000. Are there any questions?
Aye.
Are there any questions? If not, all those in favor of NHT 7, administration of the build on your own property initiative for $25,000, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. I think at this time we will take our evening break and resume at 6:30 p.m. If there are no questions, then all those in favor of NGS 24, spaying and neutering of dogs and cats, $64,800, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. We voted on TP 74 already. We voted on that. So we will do TP 76, assistance for infrastructure development, 37,500. Are there any questions? All those in favor of TP 76, assistance for infrastructure development, $37,500, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. Given the value, there's no questions on depreciation, so let's approve depreciation as well. OE 101, depreciation of planning, lands, agriculture, housing, and infrastructure, $10,790,951.
Aye.
OE 101, depreciation of planning, lands, agriculture, housing, infrastructure, $10,790,951, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. OE 93, Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, $141,212.
Aye.
All those in favor of OE 93, Caribbean Agricultural Research and Development Institute, CARDI, for $141,212, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. OE 104, Caribbean Energy Information System membership, $3,769. All those in favor of Caribbean Energy Information System membership for $3,769, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
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 Those against, no. And I think perhaps that's an opportune time to take the evening break. Yes, finish all of them? Okay. Okay. So, E, E, EI 57, National Housing Development Trust, $3,353,537. All those in favor of EI 57, National Housing Development Trust for $3,353,537, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. EI 71, Ministry of Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure, $5,022,293. Are there any questions?
What are they?
That's not him? So what entity you buying now? Land again?
Selling, buy.
Let's just vote on it.
Providing you can recommit it. They don't know themselves, what's up? But they want me to vote on it.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'll just give the larger items because there are some $6,000 items and $9,000 items.
That's the big stuff.
E-conveyancing, continuation, 125,000, aerial photography, 120. So lands and survey total along with the smaller items, 285. The automated mail sorting equipment for the Postal Service is $1 million. That's the mail sorter for the Postal Service. There is the EVR system, which is 1.2 million. And then there is the phase 1 redevelopment of DVES, which is $1 million. What's that? Keep going. These are estimates. Yes. I think those are all the larger ones.
Aye.
All those in favor of EI 71, Ministry of Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing and Infrastructure for $5,022,293, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
And those against, no. Land purchases, EA4, land purchase, $750,000. Are there any questions?
Aye.
All those in favor of EA4 land purchase for $750,000 standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
EA8 abattoir,
Aye.
$175,000. Any questions?
Aye.
All those in favor of EA8 abattoir for $175,000 standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. EA9 land purchase gazetted claims for $3 million. Are there any questions?
Aye.
Aye.
All those in favor of EA9 land purchase gazetted claims $3 million standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. EA36 miscellaneous road surface upgrades for $1,500,000. Are there any
Mr.
questions?
Chairman?
Mr.
Chairman?
There's a father and there's a deputy speaker who wants to go first.
The big man.
Okay, I'll choose since you're both giving way. Mr. Eden.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I was asking earlier on, is the NRA, the road works, is this part of this?
That's it.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for getting that lovely road heading from Bordentown into Breakers. Certainly made a big difference. The other thing, for years I've been thinking about, and I didn't want to bring it up, but the road there, that new subdivision being done by Frank Hall, right across from where I turn in there, went in on Daniels Drive.
You mean 44 acres, the water line?
No, I'm talking about the road that turns in there. Every time,
Oh, Melbourne, Charlie, them land, 44 acres.
no, I'm talking about the on the road there.
Okay.
Okay, just let me finish. Then
Yeah, sorry.
Every time I turn in there and cars are behind me, I am scared to death.
Okay.
There's just a little wedge there and very few people stop. When I get hit and die, I'm going to actually do my obituary. Because it's just a matter of time how I see some of these people driving.
Mr. Eden, if
you
that
can-
happened and you came back and asked me, I don't know what would do.
But all joke aside, if
But that will not happen to
if
you.
they could widen,
I
just
hear
put a
what
little
you're saying.
bit more stuff
Is
there.
that
That
ki-
should have been done when the approval
Yeah,
was
but
given to
is that kind of close to where
right by
they-
Margaret's house?
where they sell the stuff?
Yeah, right above it. Going into Daniels Drive,
right,
going out
right,
there.
right. Okay.
Last thing.
Make notes.
Last thing, and I've been begging for 2 or 3 years.
Once you mention hello.
For 2 or 3 years, the commissioner of police, and maybe you can.
I don't want to be him.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Every time I leave Georgetown and head east, we get to the bottleneck by Hurley's. I've suggested to him, you probably heard me say to him, if we could block off from 4:30 till 6:30, coming out of South Sound, where that blocks 2 lanes of traffic coming from Georgetown going east, even if to try it for a week to see how successful, because
And let them come the same way everybody else
let
come
them,
in.
instead of rushing up through South Sound and getting blocked off there, because 2 or 3 cars come.
So the best they could do is come up through South Sound and come through Old Crew Road and come round and roundabout.
But just don't cut in front and block those 2 lanes that could be flowing all the time between 4:30 and 6:30. I mean, I've been begging and pleading with. I don't know who has to initiate it, but if you can, I would be grateful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Eden. Mr. Bush?
Mr. Chairman, is the 1.5 for the entire Cayman Islands? Is it allocated in a special
Not for the
house
entire Cayman Islands, it's for the entire Grand Cayman, for all of us, for each of for the 5 districts.
Sorry, yes, Cayman, Grand Cayman.
Yeah.
I forget that Cayman has its own vote. And that's what I'm going to ask you, is it allocated in a special how?
No, the proportions will be the same as it has been before.
How much that is?
I'm not
5
100% sure. I'm
5
not
to
100% sure.
300 each?
Paul.
Oh, come on now.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I resent that statement about shortchanging East End and North Side.
Who you talking to me?
No,
Well,
him.
Look at him when you're talking to him. Look over here.
Mr. Chairman, my good friend might do it, but he knows I've had to juggle. And I've been juggling ever since he's been
Just
up.
like all of us.
Gentlemen, any objections to us taking a break?
No, let's finish this one, please.
Okay.
Huh?
No, what is 1.5 is for? So what's this actually for? Mr. Chairman, just so that we have a clear understanding, this 1.5 million is not the district roads program. That's not that. That's like the roundabout, the works being done at the roundabout up on the run there now, and other types of stuff like that.
Special works then.
Yeah, what's the one where all this come out of? The NRA operational budget includes the district road works. And for instance, just to say for instance, like if West Bay got 300 last year, let's just say, it means this year, out of that, it would be 450 because it's 18 months.
So
But it's no less, I can assure you.
it's no less than 450.
I can assure you it's no less than what.
So 350,
the allocation.
300 plus 150.
Yeah, because it's 18 months.
18 months, okay.
And likewise, all of the other districts.
Okay.
Because up to now, I've had no special arrangements being asked to be made.
Yes.
So the regular works
That's
will be
so
done.
come. That's so
And
come.
we will consult with the members to get their recommendations as to how to deal with it.
Okay. No, I'm satisfied with that answer, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, 18 months, $450,000 for district road works.
Is that what you said, or you said?
Yeah, I'm using the 300,000 as a
an
benchmark because that's approximately what was done the year before. And that's only the road works.
No, I understand.
There are some drains and like signage and that kind of stuff, which is not included.
It comes a different vote. I understand.
That's not
that.
included in that amount.
I understand that.
So, just so that before you take the vote, sir, just so that everybody will understand, there will be no change in how the matters were being done,
Okay.
notwithstanding that this is the last one before the election.
Okay. I know the God is piled up somewhere else. That's good. We know what you.
Mr. Conley?
We know
Mr. Chairman, through
how
you,
like to do things.
would this cover things like sleeping policemen?
No.
Yeah.
Road surfaces.
All right, because
Not the 1.5? Not the 1.5 that we're voting on now.
Oh.
The operational budget that NRA has. So let me just say this, because I just remembered that business, Mangrove Avenue.
Absolutely.
Let me just say this. My understanding is that what? Forgive me. Is that what you were asking about, sir?
Actually,
My understanding, Mr. Chairman, of the situation at Mangrove Avenue just after a recent, I would have to call it hit and run, although the hit was a wall and the person ran, is people complaining about sleeping policemen, traffic calming devices, or the lack thereof, I should say. The fact of the matter is that in order for the NRA to act on these requests, they have to get permission from the majority of the users on the road.
That's been explained to the
Right,
community.
so as I understood it, Minister Archer, you gave them the forms
I did.
and the NRA have not received the forms back yet. But the NRA certainly will act on it once we get the forms back.
We've
So
communicated
that's, and that, I say that because that goes for everyone. And it is only fair because what has happened in times gone by is a few people have gone to the NRA, even when the NRA was Public Works, before the split, and complain, and they go and they put down these sleeping policemen, and then you get more complaints from people who live there saying they don't want them. Then how to go and take them back up? So you want to make sure that at least you have a majority of the people, that anybody who comes and says we don't want them, you can say, well, listen, this is signed by the majority of the people.
Yeah.
So they need that.
And can I, while we're on that,
Sure.
Can I ask for an update as to the Canal Lane? We submitted a request for Canal Lane as well. And the road there on Walker's Road, just before the gas station, by the old Cayman Imports, the subdivision down in there.
You're talking about sleeping policemen?
Yes.
Comer Drive?
Comer Drive.
But have they gone through that process and sent it in?
They've been submitted.
The
As well-
managing director has said he will certainly check on it.
as well as a no parking sign on Spot Street just before you enter. I think it's Songbird Drive. Is that Songbird Drive? Where the Frank Hall homes are. You know, there's a stone wall, a long stone wall, and then there's a subdivision to the left. I think it's Songbird Drive. Because the wall
Just past Dr. T's house?
just past there, the
Right.
wall,
Just before you get to Spots Dock. Where you fix
there's
the
a
side
gap
of the road.
between, there's a big space between the wall and the road.
No parking.
And cars will park there, and it obscures the view of anyone trying to get out of the subdivision, turning to the right to come
it would-
towards town.
So that needs to be on the right-hand side, on the right-hand side coming out,
And no parking sign.
on the west side of the.
Yes, sir. 9:30 tomorrow morning. Minister Rivers, you have a question?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't finish questioning.
We're not going to vote yet. But
Sorry?
You have a question to continue?
Well, the one thing I wanted to find out, and I don't think it was made clear, was that the district road works comes out of a different road, and so does things like sleeping police is not added in the district road works as such budget. It's a different vote
Yes.
in that heading.
Just like the drainage and stuff. like that.
Drainage, sleeping police, etc.
Yes, sir.
And
Minister
we can get
Rivers?
some investment when we ask. Right?
Thank you,
Right?
Mr. Chair. Just
I've never known him to tell you no.
You have in the past, but he didn't.
Minister Rivers?
thank you, Mr. Chair. The question that I have is, does this vote that we're talking about now, the special projects, include stuff like the crosswalks and signage and flashing lights by schools and that kind of stuff as well?
The vote that we're talking about now, let me make sure, that's the NRA's operational budget, not the 1.5 million.
Right, so,
That's part of NRA's operational budget. Those are things that they do as a matter of course.
okay, so I have a question as it relates to that, or more of a comment, and also as it relates to an update to the extent possible about what's happening on the Northwest Point realignment. So I'm happy to wait till we get to that vote, or take the question now, depending on.
There is no vote for that. That's NRA, that's done.
Okay, well then I'd like to get an
We'll talk about that, and
Yeah.
I'll tell
Well-
you where we're at with it.
Okay, and just about the crosswalk, I mean, we'd had the conversation, and I was hoping that we'd make sure.
Which one is that? Where?
By the Sir John Acumba Primary School. Remember, we had a conversation about the
Yes,
concerns
yes,
about children
yes.
walking to school.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
if we can make sure that
Yeah,
that's
we'll make sure of
accommodated.
that.
Thank you very
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you.
All those in favor of EA 37, EA 36, miscellaneous road surface upgrades for 1,500,000, standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. EA 37, farm roads, $75,000.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bush?
these farm roads, is this just a block vote in case we get a request, or these are according to requests made already? Farm Road. It's a block vote, so if somebody asks, you will upgrade and so on. But that's why I was questioning. Because nearly every year we have this block voting, and every year we vote probably the same amount. I haven't looked back on it, but I mean, I have no problem with when it's done. I'm just trying to find out whether it is a block vote or if there are roads identified, or you're waiting on request. Okay.
All those in favor of EA 37 Farm Roads for $75,000 standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. EA 78 Government Office Accommodation Project 1, $375,000. Are there
Mr.
any
Chairman,
questions?
can the minister say what that is about? Retention or whatever it is?
Mr. Bush? Mr.
G, yeah.
Is that the $375,000?
Yes, sir.
That's to do with the. That's to do with the government administration building and whatever other small minor fit outs may be left to be done as the need arises within, because a couple of places are not 100% occupied yet. And also, for instance, like the legal department is bursting at the seams. They need a couple other offices, so we're going to have to rejig and steal some space from one of the conference rooms to allow for that to happen. Those kinds of things. That's why the vote is not big this year, because there are no big fit outs to be done because there's no more space to fit out. 85% allowing for a little bit of expansion within the offices. Oh, yeah.
Okay, if there are no more questions, all those in favor of EA 78 Government Office Accommodation Project, $375,000 standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. Do we anticipate a lot of questions on EA 142?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Do you have one?
Yes.
Is there anyone else who has a question on EA 142, Georgetown Revitalization for $6 million?
I just want to, Mr. Chairman, I'm just asking what is the 6 million, 6.9, what that entails.
Mr. Chairman, a fairly large portion of that is going to be for the Linford-Pearson Highway. There's also the new road which is planned, which will go from Eastern Avenue by the Blue Marlin restaurant, by where the stoplight is, going straight across to North Church Street.
Eastern Avenue, North Church Street, then.
Eastern Avenue, North Church Street. We don't have it 100% confirmed yet, but the other one we're looking at is from Elgin out to Shedden Road by the stoplight by Cable and Wireless.
Cable and Wireless.
Eastern Avenue.
Yes.
Eastern Avenue intersection.
So intersection there.
From Elgin Avenue going through alongside Cricket Square.
Uh-huh. In that area.
Yeah, between Cricket Square and the government administration
So
compound.
Eastern Avenue Junction. To Elgin. Okay.
And Shedden Road and Eastern Avenue, we're looking very carefully to see whether it's possible to get the third turning lane in both of those, like we've done with Godfrey Nixon and Smith Road.
This road works basically.
Yes. That's what that amount is there for the 18 months.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is that the last vote for him? Mr. Chairman, the Minister of Education asked a question just now in regards to Northwest Point, works on Northwest Point Road. Can the minister tell me what the two of them talking about?
Mr. Chairman, the NRA is redesigning. I honestly didn't know that. You don't know anything about it?
No, I know about the junction on Northwest Point Road, and and Town Hall Road, which enters into Northwest Point Road, Turtle Farm Road then. I know all about that because
Yeah,
that
but
was,
that-
that was something we proposed a long time ago.
Yeah, well, that's what we're talking about, to give space, to first of all, create more space for the vendors for that area.
That's the same plan that was
Yeah,
rejected years ago, but I'm glad it's back there.
And we're
Yeah.
certainly carrying it forward as best as possible.
Yeah, you never told me anything about it.
Anyway,
You're scheming up too much.
that's all we're talking about.
for
and
our
how-
people.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to know what the
Yeah,
plans
when I say
are.
that's all,
If I
I
could
don't have the
ask
final
one
plans.
person at a
I
time.
understand, but
And
there,
as soon as we have the final plans, I'm happy
There-
to let you see it.
there was a whole
One person-
plan for that
one person-
area.
One person at a time, please.
There was
Yeah,
a whole plan for that area, Mr. Chairman, and it was left around the glass house. I don't know where it is now, because that was from a couple of years now. Well,
I don't
and
know
the
about that.
proposal has been in there for quite a while. It's not new, but I would certainly like to know, because certainly I know that you all will throw the right blanket on it and make it a little bit different. That's okay with me once it gets done.
Mr. Chairman, if anybody knows where the plans that you're talking about, I'm quite happy to look at them because that might make our life easier. But I don't have a clue where they are.
Well, it's certainly you're not gonna include, because we had talked about a landing jetty there and all that, so I know you're not doing all of that.
No.
But
no.
the realignment of the road is
Right.
still the same. It's still the same.
Well, I don't know exactly because I haven't seen it, like I said.
Yeah,
But
Mr. Tristan might know, might remember something about it. Because he was somewhere around it then too.
All right, let's vote.
No, yet, Mr. Chairman, this is very
Okay.
important. If the ministers finish, if they have any more to.
no, that's fine.
Just that I would like to be kept up to date with what's going on.
Absolutely. Instructions have already been given. Blame him if you don't.
No, blaming Tara and you.
No.
Oh, yes,
Blame to be cast.
You will be kept up to date. Don't worry. Minister Rivers will make sure that.
You don't worry about that. You done cut short. Done found out about it.
Is that it, Mr. Chair?
No, sir, I'm going to add one to it now.
Yes, sir.
Can I ask that we have a pedestrian crossing by the graveyard and fire station in West Bay? In order to, as many times when you're going there, people are trying to cross the road, from the parking lot opposite the graveyard by the fire
Are
station.
you talking about the push button one or just crossing?
Push button would help, yeah. Or
Okay.
whatever's affordable, but something that lets the traffic stop for people to cross the street.
Mr. Chairman,
So it's
whenever-
not just a cemetery, it's divers and stuff.
Yes, it's
Well,
a big dive site there, and
well,
it's the same problem.
Yeah.
In fact, we have still cemeteries because people bought what? But please remember when we're on that, talking about a graveyard, that we need a graveyard.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Not forgotten.
Thank you. All right, we'll vote now. All
Minis-
those in favor of...
Minister, just before you take the vote, if you don't mind, so I would certainly like to thank Chief Officer and the entire team for coming down today to assist with Finance Committee in the deliberations for my ministry, and certainly want to thank all members here on my side and facing me for the lively but cooperative way in which we've been able to progress. And thank you, sir, for being a good chair, and the staff also of the Legislative Assembly and your staff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, all those in favor of EA 142, Georgetown revitalization, $6,950,000 standing as part of the schedule to the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. That concludes the appropriations to the Minister for Planning, Lands, Agriculture, Housing, and Infrastructure. And we will resume tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m., to consider the appropriations to the Deputy Governor. And we will now adjourn for the evening. And just to say to everyone, have a wonderful evening.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just share with members of the committee, my dream, Mr. Chairman, I am dreaming that we can finish the examinations of the Deputy Governor and Attorney General tomorrow, that we can get Thursday off so that the staff here can complete the report, that we can resume on Friday at 9:30 to consider and approve the report, return to the House, go through the third reading of the appropriation bill and pass it, and complete the government business and adjourn the House on Friday evening. That is my dream, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, does the Premier envision coming back the following Monday then to not, so you won't be coming back now? You have an idea when you would be coming back, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, the thing is that there are, I think, 4 ministers that are going to travel. And I've also had representation from a number of members, including members of the opposition and the leader of the opposition, about vacation and travel time for family and so forth through the month of July. So at the moment we haven't decided on it, but I would see us returning to the House in September. Mr. Chairman, I should say, because I've just had a discussion with the Attorney General about it, we are hoping, planning really, that we'll have the elections bill available then so that we can deal with that. Just should indicate that the Minister for Education, and I have also had a chat, and the education bill, which we expect will take some debate, would be deferred also until September. The other government bills, I don't think they'll be contentious.
Thank you. If there's nothing else, then we will adjourn for the evening. And